T-minus 5 minutes. T-minus 4 minutes. T-minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes.
Yeah. Every click, every move, yeah, they're watching the feed, showing ads for the things that you don't really need. They want all the data, they want your ID, but I've got some news that just won't work for me. So I encrypt the connection and cover my tracks. We get to the truth and we stick to the facts. We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak, what you wanna share is
T-minus 1 minute.
Look, the world is exposed, yeah, the walls are thin. Everybody posting every place that they've been. Trading privacy for likes, that's a heavy cost. In the ocean of data, the person gets lost. So we flip the switch, yeah, we go underground. Moving through the silence without making a sound. Not hiding because you are doing something wrong. Just defending your rights before they are gone. The room is secure, so let the session start. Speak from the brain or speak from the heart. Tell us your story, we unlock the doors. We invite you.
T-minus 30 seconds.
You can keep the mask on, keep it low key. Privacy is priceless, but opinions are free. We amplify the voices that they try to call weak. Welcome to the stream, time to hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, it's our choice.
10, 9,
Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean
7,
having a voice.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. We are Hide and Speak. We stream every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Our topics are privacy, free speech, and internet freedom. We're the crew behind vp.net. If you guys have any questions at any time, just type capital Q, colon, and then ask your question. We can pop that up on stream. What not to expect with us: no religion, no partisan politics, left, right. It's all bullshit to us. The opinions expressed by members of our panel are their own personal opinions and do not necessarily reflect the views of Hide and Speak or vp.net. I'm Shane. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at vp.net. And Mr. Miller, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just peachy. Excited to be here. I'm Chris Miller, the CMO for vp.net, and really excited to talk about this super important topic today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Peachy indeed. Mr. Nathan, how you doing today?
Yeah, Nathan here, a creative media specialist for vp.net. Very excited today for the topic, and I think it's real important that we highlight this.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And lovely Susie, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Can't wait to start the day.
Privacy. Woo! Coffee hasn't kicked in yet, but it's getting there. I just want to introduce a guest today. Today, we are joined by a Hide and Speak regular, Christopher Cialone, developer of the sub-rosa project and shadowranch.xyz. As a developer of privacy-first, non-custodial tools, today's topic is one that hits really close to home for him, and he has been working to raise awareness about Roman's case and the potential implications. Christopher, thank you for joining us today.
No, I appreciate you guys having me back here. Yeah, it's always an honor to be here to speak with everybody and to bring awareness to privacy digitally and in real life as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. And yes, let's definitely raise some awareness for this because this sets a precedent with this Roman storm, and we'll speak more on that here in a second. Mr. Miller, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so we have a really exciting stream that's coming next week that I want to let everybody know about on Saturday, March 28th at 4 p.m. Eastern, the usual time. We are discussing the persecution of Roger Ver, the Bitcoin Jesus, and the Free Roger movement, and we have an amazing panel lined up. We will be joined by Aaron Day from the Aaron Day Show, Joel Valenzuela again from Dash, and his good friend Christopher Cialone. So it's going to be an amazing one. And also, we just want to take a minute to thank vp.net for supporting Hide and Speak and giving us a platform to connect with all of you and give you a voice. A lot of people think this is our job, but it's actually not. If it was, we wouldn't be doing it on nights and weekends. It'd be probably like a Tuesday at 1 p.m. or something. This is something we all really wanted to do because privacy is really important to us, and vp.net is helping make it possible. And we are super grateful for that. So if you want to show your support for Hide and Speak and help keep the show alive, the best way you can do that is by signing up for vp.net, which comes with the added benefit of being the only verifiable zero-trust VPN in the world. The link is down in the description as usual, and we're just going to watch a quick video from vp.net, and then we're digging into this Roman storm situation.
vp.net, the only VPN that can't spy on you. Your browsing data says more about you than you think. From marketing companies to hackers, everyone wants it because it's worth everything, and they'll stop at nothing to spy on you. Your searches and the sites you visit, that's enough to paint a picture. Most VPNs claim to protect your privacy, but here's the problem. You can't actually verify what they're doing behind the scenes. That's where vp.net is different. We're the only VPN built with Intel's SGX technology, the same trusted security used in banking, healthcare, and even the automotive industry. Here's the key. vp.net runs inside a secure black box, a protected environment so locked down that even we can't see inside it. That means no one, not even vp.net itself, can spy on your activity when you connect. You can verify in real time that your VPN is doing exactly what it promises, protecting you and nothing else. vp.net means no hidden tracking, no broken promises, just real provable privacy. vp.net, the only VPN you don't have to trust, because you can verify.
Verify indeed. So, the man behind the code, Christopher, before we get into the legal drama, who is Roman Storm? You followed his work. What was his original vision for building a privacy protocol in an increasingly surveilled world?
Yeah, so what's interesting about all this is because we are now in a kind of in a situation where like we have a precedent kind of with Tornado Cash. We have a precedent with the Samurai Wallet developers, where now the government is going after these guys and prosecuting actual mixers or privacy applications that worked. But these guys were kind of like really visionary. Roman is just a software developer. He's one of the 3 original co-founders of Tornado Cash. Another Roman, Semenov, I think is how you say his name, and Alexei Pertsev. So these are immigrants, I believe, from Russia, but they're American citizens, or at least Roman is, residing in Washington. They just wrote open source code to give users the ability to remain anonymous, knowing that Ethereum is a completely transparent blockchain that you could see every single transaction that was on there. It was important that they created Tornado Cash, a non-custodial mixer, which essentially we could think about kind of like a washing machine. Not that it's washing money, it's just mixing things up and spitting out more data than would be necessary for a single transaction, making it basically confusing for people to just click and see, okay, what's your salary if you're getting paid in Bitcoin or Ethereum? These would be on the blockchain. So they made something that made regular users of the internet be able to hide their transactions. Not that they were doing anything wrong, but I'm not a big fan of letting everybody know every single buy I have of the coffee I bought downstairs. And all this is on chain if you're using cryptocurrency. So these guys had a vision, and before anything was really built, before the ecosystem was really built out in any sort of really meaningful way, these guys, got down to it and created smart contracts that made all of this possible. Non-custodial mixer. Just give me a second I think we have do we have the slides available here, Chris? Where I could kind of go through?
Yeah,
I believe we have a short video covering some basics of the situation.
Yeah,
We're gonna launch that.
hit a few basics. We got a couple more questions for you just on some background, and then we're going to give you the floor for the whole presentation. You guys, you're going to like this. Christopher did an amazing job. He has an awesome presentation for us. So let me just, we'll run this real quick. Just give people some quick background on the thing and sort of why this is really important to everybody.
Imagine facing 40 years in federal prison, not for stealing money, but for writing code. That's the reality for Roman Storm, the co-founder of the privacy protocol Tornado Cash. Last August, a Manhattan jury convicted Roman of conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business, but they deadlocked on the most serious charges of money laundering and sanctions violations. Ultimately, the jury cannot agree on whether the developers should be held criminally liable for how others use their tools. Now, the stakes are rising. On March 10th, the Department of Justice officially moved to retry Roman on those deadlock counts. But before that happens, Roman's team is filing a Rule 29 motion, asking a judge to toss his previous conviction entirely. The argument is simple. Roman never touched the money. He published open source, non-custodial code. If the government could just redefine the definition of money transmission to include the developers writing the software, nearly every developer in America could be at risk. This isn't just Roman's fight. This is a fight for the future of the internet. Privacy is not a crime. Code is protected speech, and this is hide and speak. Let's get into it.
Well, code is protected speech, ain't it? And cypherpunks write code, and it's a very unique story.
Yes.
Let's
Very
see.
well said, by the way, Chris. Good job there.
We've just got some more questions for you here. Roman is currently living under house arrest with his legal defense fund reportedly depleted. How does it feel as a fellow developer to watch a peer go through this simply for publishing open source code?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's ever, I mean, if you've ever tried to build anything, getting someone to give you money for even a product is difficult, and a product that works. It's not the easiest thing in the world for you to get anybody to hand money over to you. This in particularly is, it's really disturbing because now there's I'm sure that there's people who have used his protocol and may not have donated to the defense fund. Not that anybody really, nothing is saying that you must, but for crying out loud, I mean, this guy's fighting for his life now. Especially if you used his software and it assisted you in your life, you weren't doing anything wrong. I think the time to step up is now. I mean, even $5, I'm not donating big money because I don't have it, right? But I'll put something into the fund once a week. When I come across, some money I have, I'll go without a couple of coffees or whatever the deal is and donate money to the defense fund. What they're doing to him isn't just to Roman. They're going to squash the ability for solo developers or even businesses that would like to build out a meaningful protocol. They're going to kill that by introducing new legislation or these landmark cases. And that's why they're fighting kind of down to every single case. I think that there's an importance if they get a guilty plea, so that they completely steamrolled the samurai devs. They essentially these guys aren't crooks. They're not criminals. So if you offer somebody, it's like, we'll give you a deal. You'll do 18 months. If you don't take this 18 months, we're going to try to give you 50 years. So now you're almost forced to plead down just so it's like, well, at least I'll get to see my family again. And the government, the DOJ in this case, is really, they're playing kind of by rule by decree. They're definitely not going by the laws that are on the books. And if they are, they're really reading very broadly into these things, but it's disturbing as a developer. And I really urge everybody out there to take a look at this. And if you agree with Roman, and not even necessarily with what he built, but that we have the ability to build, I would definitely go check out the freeromanstorm.com and donate whatever it is that you can, because every little bit helps.
Every little bit does
Yeah,
help, and
that's
especially
great.
when you're in a situation like that. How many times have we seen this over the history of the United States, even where somebody's innocent, but they get just bankrupted completely because they have to do, they have to hire lawyers, they have to change their lifestyle because now they're out of a job. They can't get hired anywhere because it's too much of a risk. How are these people going to live? And that's the saddest part about it, is that you're a software developer and working in the cryptography space. And to create something like this, there's just so many useful things that you can, that you would need to utilize something like Tornado Cash for. Sure, criminals use it, but that's the thing too, is it's kind of like anonymity. I prefer to be anonymous and stuff in many situations, and I talk about polite things. I'm kind. So it's kind of like with anonymity. Criminals can use anonymity because should that make anonymity illegal? And I think that's kind of the world we're moving into. That the use cases for these things are, I would say there's more use cases for it being and being considered good than it would be, being considered bad. And here's the thing: if it's not Tornado Cash the criminals are going to use, it's going to be something else that they're going to use, right? Like North Korea, I think they hacked how many hundreds of millions of dollars from even the Ethereum blockchain. And just different hacks out there that become state sponsored. So what is the motive behind all of this is really what I'm wondering. The path forward and a call to action for this, let's dive into the legal side of this, right? Let's have a gander at what's really going on.
I think we're gonna run. Christopher's got the presentation now. Fill us in on all the details here, because it's a wild one for sure.
About that presentation that you got for us, because I kind of want to dive into this trial, but I want to see what you got for me.
Right. I would also like to point out that I am not affiliated with Tornado Cash. I have nothing to do with Tornado Cash or Roman. I've never even spoke to Roman. This isn't about that. If people are thinking that maybe I was put up to this, or he's a personal friend. No, this is just purely principle. This is just that it's something that we all kind of believe in, and we realize the importance and the gravity of the legal decisions that are going to be coming down from this. But yeah, let's
just for a second. I just want to say, something I was saying to Nathan earlier today. I'm like, so the precedent they're trying to set is that the person, who created the technology that made this possible should be criminally liable. So let's think about that for a minute. So yes, let's talk about, for example, the bombing in Iran, the girls' school. You know, some AI company was behind that, so that means we got to hold them responsible, of course. You know, but if you think about it, it was only possible because the internet exists, right? So we got to go after the people who created the internet. So now you've got CERN, that goes back to Tim Berners-Lee and CERN, which has 92 countries there. But how did CERN exist? Well, that existed from the taxpayer money. If it weren't for all those taxes being paid, they couldn't have done CERN, they couldn't have made the internet, which couldn't have made AI, which couldn't have killed that girls' school. So now you
And
have to
that
go
was
after all
probably
the
built on a
taxpayers. So
Linux
now you have
server.
what? Every single citizen in 92 countries of the world are now responsible for that girls' school in Iran. I mean, that's the logic they're using, is that you have to go to the next level. Well, if this couldn't happen unless this did, well, this couldn't happen unless you built this. So I mean, that goes all the way, and eventually, if you follow that long enough, it goes to everybody alive. So, are we all guilty of everything now? I mean,
I have it.
what?
I heard this saying that I think resonates. You know, God created the universe, and then God created man, and man considered that a bad deal.
This has long been considered to be a huge mistake.
If we link it all the way back to the source, like who's responsible for this, man?
Mhm.
And you know, that's it. Really does raise that question and stuff. Like, at what layer of technology, what layer of you know, creating these things do you stop at? So I think we kind of already know that you know, they have no grounds to stand on with if you create the technologies and these things are used by bad people. You know, what grounds can you stand on? I think this can be argued, and it's not even, honestly, it's not even really an argument. It's just, you know, it's not like you're creating something to go exploit networks and take their data and steal their data. And you know, we see much more of this actual cyber crime that's out there, and this just doesn't even fall into the grounds of cyber crime, in my opinion.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't classify this as a cyber crime. You know, because we don't. Well, we'll get into this. I mean, we could all go back and forth with that, but this is just somebody was able to take advantage of code that somebody wrote. I mean, that's just the nature of man. You know, like that's just how we're built like that. So
That's open source. That's how open source works. And you can't crucify open source and the concept of it just because somebody decided to exploit it. That's what happens to everything we do.
yeah, and then eventually, I think the main goal of everything at some point would be to shut down or extremely limit what we're able to do with open source.
It's another limitation of freedom of speech, but
Right.
in the code form, you know, it's another language.
And software development was already ruled as free speech, so that's the thing.
Exactly.
Is it really? It's already free speech. It's protected, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's the thing, is like how much the U.S. Constitution even applied in 2026 is really a bigger question, right?
Right.
Oh, what do we have in this presentation here, Mr. Cialone?
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to get down to just some of the, you know, the higher talking points and dive into it as it comes up here. So, in the beginning, when he first made when he first created this protocol here, before even that, we have to understand like the legal jeopardy of things. Traditional banks operate on a centralized ledger. They retain total custodial control and enforce KYC compliance, track every single thing we do, entry points and the exit points. Tornado Cash kind of flipped this on its head, and the founders created an open source smart contracts on Ethereum, and it created a decentralized pool of immutable contracts. Immutable meaning that it can't be changed. Once you deploy an immutable contract, that's it. It's just out there in the world. There's no freezing it. There's no stopping actions. This is just an autonomous, almost think of it as a robot. You just press go and that's it. It's just going to do what it's been told to do. No one can shut it down. That's the censorship resistance that we all like, right? That you can't have this shut down. So since you can't freeze this or access any of the pool funds, the developers in question here never executed any of the transactions that they were. They never executed any of the transactions that they've been accused of taking part in or benefiting from. They just publish code. And that's like a big thing for everybody to realize. So what do we got here? The exploitation. They create this, and the Lazarus Group, if the tech people probably are kind of familiar with this, but this is a Korean hacking. They're probably government sponsored. I can't be 100% sure, but they're a North Korean like hackers, not the good kind either. So they bypassed the UI, and interacted directly with the smart contracts to launder over $1 billion or so in illegal funds.
Wow.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it would just be like
And that's just what we know of, right? That's just, you know, what can be proven. How much, you know, went under the radar.
Right. You know, and just for some type of, to zoom out in a way, one of the states, the southern states, I believe it was, I want to say Georgia, but it might not be. They left their one of the state voting. It had something to do with voting. They left open one of their site wasn't secure. Somebody got into the HTML and was able to hack into the database. Nobody was ever held accountable for this.
Wow.
It's kind of like a similar type of situation where it was just somebody was able to leverage a mistake and they broke in. But that, you're kind of here nor there. I was just trying to touch on that. They were just exploiting. They were exploiting this thing. It had nothing really to do with the way the code was written. They were using it in a way that was illegal in the first place.
Right. If the code was designed to do this, then I could honestly understand why they were going after the Roman, but it's not. It'd be like if somebody hacked Facebook and figured out how to use it to launder $1 billion. Like, that's not Zuckerberg's fault directly.
And
he'd weasel out of that one.
And those things are protected. Like, those are LLCs. Like, that's why they call it limited liability, right? That way, you know, the officers and vice presidents of the company, they're not liable for the business's damages. I mean, in many cases, they fucking should be, you know, out there. And you know, these walled gardens and the top 100 websites, some of these executive decisions are just insanely criminal. You know, it's looking at this presentation here, just a slide on this. For running an unlicensed money transmitting business. And that's the thing, is cryptocurrency is it money or is it a property? Because back from 2017 to now, I've been under the impression that it's a property, right? You own this. You can have futures with it. You can short them. You can use them as stock, you know. So what is the actual definition of how they see cryptocurrency, right? And I'm not sure if this guy had an LLC or anything like that. I'm not sure if he's protected by it. But on an unlicensed money transmitting business, and it transmitted no money, right? Money is fiat cash that you can take to the store and buy a candy bar with. You can't go to the store and buy a candy bar with any of this crypto.
Right. The best way to kind of think about it, when I'm telling people that they have no idea what cryptocurrency is, Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards hold value, right? Or baseball cards, but you cannot go into any, you know, nobody is just going to take, oh, it's a Mickey Mantle rookie. Well, maybe a Mickey Mantle rookie card, but they don't hold value across the board the way money does. Money is legal tender. And this is kind of what Gary Gensler, if we all kind of remember who he is, he was pre-Trump. Gary Gensler, they were being vague on purpose, and they were going after everybody without defining rules or laws or regulations or anything. And it's just ruled by decree. It's just kind of the way it's been for probably almost the entirety of all of our lifetimes. But so the government kind of smashed this dude after that. The Office of Foreign Assets Control, that's what that OFAC is. They threw Tornado Cash, the protocol, on this thing called, I got to look at, because we're dealing with government stuff, it's all alphabet, the Specially Designated Nationals and Blocked Peoples List. So they threw Tornado Cash, and I believe Roman and the other two founders on this list, which is like, there's terrorists that are on this list. You know, like these are very, we would look at maybe like they throw Osama bin Laden on there. These are people, or, you know, just known terrorists or people that mean the nation harm. So
and that's crazy. Like a terrorist is somebody's going to go to a crowd of people and blow shit up. That's not anything like that.
they yanked this dude's GitHub, because GitHub is centralized. They took the repo off, so you couldn't even see. And there was a they were using Tornado Cash and other use case, and other protocols similar, like Samurai Wallet. They were teaching this in a specific university, and one of the professors there was kind of like breaking chops. Like, how is this? He called attention to this specifically with the GitHub getting pulled down. But then the DOJ, they indict the founders. They charge them with money laundering, conspiracy, all sorts of sanctions, evasions, things that you would do to governments, foreign governments. And of course, operating an unlicensed money transmitting business is what they seem to hit all of the crypto, all the people that they indict. This is, everybody's getting this, operating an unlicensed money transmitting business, which obviously is held only for the friends of the elites, apparently, because very difficult to get a money transmitting license, I would assume. So where are we now? And then, okay, so then they indict him. The case goes to the jury. They split the verdict. And so they find him guilty of the operating a money transmitting business, and they're deadlocked on the other two, to commit money laundering and the sanctions violations. Those carried the 40 years, and now they're going to retry him on those two charges. If we go to the next slide, let me see what I got there.
With the sanction violations, that I think it was right when Russia got sanctioned, right? And it was shortly after Russia got sanctioned by Biden, then they brought up these, violating the sanctions issue. And to my knowledge, right, Roman Storm is not, he's Canadian, yeah?
I believe he's of Russian descent. He might also have made his way through Canada. I can't say that I know his whole entire biography, backwards and forwards. But he's an American citizen. He's an American.
Got it. Okay.
But not a native-born American, which shouldn't matter at this point. If he jumped through all the hoops that you must. But I'm sure at this point they would have deported him if he wasn't. He wouldn't be on any house arrest. I think he'd be gone.
I mean, and they could still do that today, anyways, too, right? They could just deport him anywhere they want. And that's the crazy days we live in.
I mean, look at Snowden. Look at Snowden. Snowden can't even come back. What did he do? He brought light to a crime that the government was committing, but
he told the truth.
That's a whole other show on its own. This slide here was just showing how, for the people to see how a traditional bank works versus Tornado Cash. We all know that in a bank, we don't actually own it's not actually your money. It's not our money. We don't put a $50 bill in there and then that same $50 is given back. They're giving us the privilege of giving our money back because we don't actually control the accounts. The whole thing about crypto, what made this appealing is that you're basically your own bank. You're in charge of your own funds. So here we have the users. Let me zoom in here. So the users, when you're going to use Tornado Cash, you sign a transaction with your private keys, and then it goes into a pool of other smart contracts. And it's kind of like that washing machine effect that I was telling you about. And it just it's a mixer. It's called a crypto mixer. And then you can't tell basically up from down at that point. And oddly enough, as they decided to retry him on these things, the Department of Treasury says there are legal reasons that users would need and be able to use crypto mixers, just as the DOJ said they're going to retry them, almost like they're being confusing on purpose, or that the two departments are kind of beefing with each other over something, because that's the way it appeared to me. That we're going to disagree in this point, because as soon as you come out and say you're going to re-indict, we're going to say that there's a use case for this, basically saying like there's another government agency that thinks that this isn't an illegal protocol. So that was another little confusing thing about the case. This is pretty complicated. There's a lot of people that have skin in the game with this, and it's hard to tell who's angling with what and for what reason with this. But yeah, you think we could jump to the next slide here, Chris? Okay, all right. So this brings me kind of back to I could kind of double back here in my madness of what is my brain here. So here I was just basically trying to explain that the developers pressed publish basically on this application, and that's it. They don't have anything to do with any of these transactions. These transactions don't go through them. They have nothing to do with it. It's the code is being executed, and they're seeing a little transaction fee for these for everything that happens there. They're not facilitating any of these transactions. So when the Lazarus group kind of did whatever it is that they did, they just bypassed their UI, and they were dealing directly with the smart contracts themselves and guiding. They had a little bit more control, I guess, than they were supposed to. But yeah, this is it. They weren't even using the application correctly.
Yeah, at that point, that should relieve the developer of any liability, right? In my opinion.
And I think that's another reason they tore down the GitHub. Well, obviously, because now it's something that was okay. It's been breached, I guess. At that point, you could say, or it's being used
it's being abused.
Well, it's not even.
There's always a terms, you know.
Well, and it also goes back to, who is held liable here. So if I develop the CRT monitor or the LCD monitor, and then my monitor was used by somebody to create these things,
see,
Shane was saying, how far does this even go back to who is held liable? The logic doesn't make any sense.
And with the smart contract system,
people into a situation where they have to pay all these high-paid lawyers, and what you're really doing is just giving the advantage to the rich and the powerful corporations who already have all of these lawyers on hand, right? So it's like I can now take out
lawyers are making
guy
money
who's causing a little problem because I can just hold them up in court all day.
Right, and it's a smart contract system. The underlying technology, even if they bypass the UI, it's a blockchain is a consensus system. So it's millions of computers and millions of other nodes that are operating on this to ensure that the smart contracts are verified that way. It has to be that way, or else people can put fake things on there and just mess up the chain entirely. So it's not even just Tornado that was hosting this. That's right. It's other people and other computers out there, and God knows who or where they are. And so this question here, just look at from an unbiased point of view, what did Roman Storm and his team do with their share of money? Well, what did all those crypto miners?
Well, here's the thing. I'd like to answer that actually
with their money.
Because that's actually, to me, that's like one of the most important things here in this case is that, because when you show a crime, you have to show that the whole thing. You can't just be like, oh, well, they stole money. Like, okay, well, where's the money? What did they do with the money? How did they steal the money? They have no information. They couldn't say how much money he earned from it. They couldn't say how he earns the money. They couldn't say if he withdrew the money. They couldn't say what he did with the money. They couldn't show an extravagant lifestyle or big purchases. They didn't have a bunch of property and Lamborghinis sitting around. So they were not able to in any way show that he was profiting off of this situation. So, and again, it's important to understand, like, this wasn't like he set up an app where you send these transactions, he gets a bunch of money from it. These people were going around him and hacking the system, basically. So it wasn't working the way it was intended. It wasn't a system he put in place for them to do that. So there wasn't any consent on his side that said, hey, go ahead and do this, and I'll make a bunch of money from it. And the prosecutors couldn't show any evidence that he was earning from this money laundering. So to me, like, you have to prove a crime, you have to have that evidence. You have to show that he was getting money from it. You know what I mean? But they failed to do that in every step of the way, which is a big part of the reason why the jury was like, no, this, you know,
Just
we can't say that makes sense. And so their response is, we're going to go try again, and maybe we'll do a better job convincing the next jury. But, you know, I agree that if they walked in and they're like, okay, look, this is his Lamborghini, this is, you know, the 5 properties we found him with, we see on this date he took the money out to this wallet and cashed it out. Okay, you might have a case now, but they failed to show any of that. So at this point, all they have is this guy built code, somebody hacked that code and used it to launder money, and that's it. That's all they have. They have no evidence that he was allowing it. They have no evidence that he was earning from anything from it. So all they know so far, all they've proven is he is a developer.
To be clear,
he admits that.
when you're using TurboTax, they don't go, like if you're washing money through TurboTax and you do your if you do your taxes through TurboTax and you lie, or there's some sort of impropriety, they don't go after TurboTax. You're the one that's doing your taxes. You're just using their software. But they don't go after TurboTax. Here it's like, well, we're going to use the name Lazarus because it's kind of known in the tech community as being negative, and you know it's hooked up with North Korea, or North Korea is the one we're not good with, right? Supposedly, if it's connected to them, everybody will get kind of scared, and he's Russian, so there's that. And they're trying to make it seem like he was doing something kind of that doesn't seem like he was really up to at all. From looking at the situation, especially like the crypto bros that are out there driving like all sorts of crazy things, helicopters. This guy was kind of just like a mild-mannered developer. I think he was satisfied with that he built a protocol that people were using. Yeah, and they're really trying to smoke this guy. If we could go, I think it's 2 slides away, not this one, the next one, real quick. Is this the one? No, go to the next one. Maybe I'll jump back to this. Swift does this all the time, but Swift is how is where everything happens. It's a centralized cooperative that settles, I don't know, maybe $200 trillion a year. And it's frequently used to move funds in violations of all sorts of sanctions. But Swift can shut it off, right? They're exempt from these sanctions because they're a messaging service provider. Tornado Cash, it's just relaying transaction messages also, but it has zero control over user cryptographic signatures, was blacklisted. So the same thing is happening, but Swift is basically just like they're on the no-touch list because they're part of the elite system of madness that we're all forced to undergo. But it's basically like the same exact thing. It's probably the most hypocritical aspect of everything, is that this was just like a crypto Swift, but Swift has no liability in anything because they're like, well, we were just relaying messages. And that's really all Tornado Cash was doing, was relaying messages. Just that inside itself, like I know they hammered this home during the trial, and I guess it had enough of an effect where they didn't convict him of the 2 big ones. But this is probably one of the more gross and obvious hypocritical aspects of the case. With that, okay, let's go. Let me see.
And it is hypocritical. And the SWIFT network is how we sanction Russia. Like we just shut Russia off from SWIFT, which means anybody that uses SWIFT network, which is everybody and anything that you need that for like international transfers. You know, if you pay your contractors and they're in the United Kingdom, SWIFT, everything is SWIFT, right? And they shut Russia off. I'm sure there's other sanctioned countries. I don't pay attention to it that much. But yeah, so I guess, you know, it is the biggest hypocrisy here. You know, they find, I think in Russian missiles, they found like United States tech mixed with Chinese tech. And so how are these purchased if not through the SWIFT network? And that's it raises more questions than it does answer.
It's pretty ridiculous.
I just want to see, I'm just researching something really quickly because I'm almost 100% sure that he's under some sort of gag order when talking about the talking about specifics of the case. Because that's like another trick that the government likes to use. They have everything.
And that's why warrant canaries aren't useful either, because they can just hit you with a gag order on not updating your warrant canary. And that way, the public doesn't know anything's up because the gag order's in effect.
Right. Well, from what I could see, he is not under a gag order, but it doesn't mean that they're not pressuring him in some other sort of manner.
And it could be information that's they can't release it yet because it directly affects his case. And by releasing that, they give the prosecution ammunition to, land your ass in prison for 50 years.
Let me see. So the government was kind of saying that they knew that this was all going on, that it wasn't mere coincidence, that Lazarus was doing whatever they were doing or washing money. Chris, if you could just jump to the next slide. So they were using these as kind of their justification for the charges, saying that the developers knew that Lazarus was doing all this, and yet they allowed them to continue to do it.
Damn.
Even if that were the case, you can't, they're immutable. There is no, that's part of the unique characteristic of the blockchain. Once you deploy something, that's it. Which is why they kind of like Tether. You see how Tether, owned by not owned by, but the Treasury Department guy, Commerce, Howard Lutnick, the company that he's all hooked up with, they've frozen more money than was moved during this. And that's why the government threw them all of the special favors and are using them specifically as one of the more favored stable coins, is because they're freezing money.
Most recently, the Venezuela tried to cash out some of their oil money and move it into USDT. And then it was literally just a phone call from the U.S. government to Tether and saying, hey, can you freeze this? And everything was frozen. Now, like what was like is in crypto is like designed. So like shit like that can happen. No, it happens.
And that's because that's a centralized, that's not a decentralized anything. Tether is not a decentralized anything. That's a centralized business operating within crypto circles, kind of that just took the entire industry Trojan horsed it kind of. There's other allegations with them with other cryptos, but specifically they froze money, and the reason they were able to do that is because that's a centralized company. That is not a decentralized protocol. Updating now, this has made developers weary of updating their code because if it comes in violation of any sort of decree that the government might have, who knows? Maybe they'll start going after them as well. So the evasion tactic developers publicly implemented a UI change to blockchain sanctioned wallets while privately acknowledging in chats that the change would be ineffective against direct smart contract interactions. At some point, it becomes like they're just grasping at straws to really push the guilt upon these cats. And it all came down to the KYC because they refused KYC, which is kind of the entire ethos of crypto, or at least it was in the beginning, that, well, this is censorship resist. You don't have to tie your physical person to your accounts. And little by little, cases like this, it started going away, kind of everywhere. The Moon, all these, the payment gateways, you're hard pressed to find a payment gateway that isn't connected to KYC, that you have to put your license, you have to get verified in all sorts of ridiculous ways, maybe tie that to IRS information. They refuse to do that. They kind of stuck by their principles, and another reason why they're really bringing down hell upon this poor guy because he stood up for principles that we're all yelling and screaming about all the time. And I feel like this guy is getting like the brunt of, we get all excited. I do. And these principles are great when you're talking about it. And it's like, screw the man and all this. And we're for the people. And then when the hammer of justice, if we could call it that, comes down on one particular person, they're going to make an example out of this guy. They tried doing it. Roger Ver. He was able to. He had enough. Money.
Great example.
Yeah, he had enough money, thank God, to be able to defend himself.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Smart guy. If they did that to me, it's like, well, all right, so I'm going to languish in here in jail because that's what they do usually.
It just goes to show that nobody is safe. Like no matter where you are in the world, nobody is safe.
Yeah.
Mark Rapella, our CTO. The first ever Bitcoin Mt. Gox hack, right? The world just completely shit on Mark for that, and it had nothing to do with it. They caught the guy. They caught the guy. Some Russian piece of shit. Some just real flat out asshole. Like if you're talking degenerate of the world, that's this guy. I don't know his name. I don't really care what his name is.
Fuck that guy.
He was caught by the United States. He was found guilty, convicted, all this stuff. He's sentenced to prison. And just not even 2 years ago, like less than 2 years ago, that we exchanged him to Russia. So he was pardoned by the United States, like an actual criminal in this space that stole everybody's, Bitcoin, and then was just given to Russia free of charge. And nobody knows what the behind the door deal was. So here it is that Roman Storm is on trial for this, for violating sanctions, especially to Russia. And then we go and do that bullshit. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Was that the one where we had the lady that was arrested for vaping?
I think we gave the Russian, I think we gave some sort of like war, a guy that was known as like, Machete or something. He had like, I don't know, like 450 bodies, something like that. Like he was a murderous type of individual, but it doesn't fit
the Lord of War.
Yes. It didn't fit the narrative with Mark. And that's why, you got to take the fall for this because you look good.
Yeah, people don't even forget.
Well, and I just want to tie this back into the fact that, if you have enough money and you can afford the lawyers and get in the courts and you have enough connections, then no problem. Right? But if you're just an everyday guy, or somebody like Roman Storm, who isn't profiting hundreds of millions of dollars, then look what happens to you.
Yeah, that's insane. And a lot of people don't even remember the right story. You hear people all the time. It's like ridiculous to think that, somebody didn't even do it is, basically being crucified. That's ridiculous.
All because some North Korean hackers just had to go and North Korea, they're constantly jacking people's crypto. They've exploited Avalanche chain. They've hacked like games that use crypto on it, and then they funnel money to themselves in some way, fashion, or form. And the bigger crimes here, are things like pig butchering. I'm not sure if people heard about that, but it's the number one biggest crime in the crypto space. And it's something that's like just releasing billions and billions of people's money just being taken from them because of these types of scams. But yet we don't crack down on these things.
People don't know what's really going on and then this is really what's in the underground. And unfortunately, not everybody's privy to how it all went down. And that's just, it's insane. And from what I read in an article that 99% of all of Japan's prosecuted cases end up being convicted. And he was one of those 1%, right?
Oh, right, Mark. Indeed. Yeah, it is like that. Sorry to go off on that wild tangent, but this stuff, it makes me mad because it's I'm not even sure if irony is the word. It's just straight up evil at this point. Like you can't just go let the actual terrorist assholes go freely and then start blaming somebody else.
Well, somehow the terrorists win.
when they made the kind of like, I feel like we're at a situation, like a point in time, probably the most similar time period would be the creation of the Federal Reserve here, right? Because monetary policy is changing. Everything is kind of shifting and changing. It's obvious that we're going to blockchain for finance, you know, like how fast or how slow it happens or how quickly the banks adopt it, and just whatever the case is, that's where the exchange of money seems to be going, and that's what's going to dictate what's happening. And the elites or whoever the regulators are positioning themselves where they need to be to come out on top of this thing. Obviously, we all know that this isn't about catching anybody doing anything wrong. You know, like, it has nothing to do with that. It's they're going after this guy specifically. They went after the Samurai developers specifically because they built something that worked to protect regular people. It's similar to this whole ID nonsense with, we're going to go to ID down to the operating level because we need to protect the kids. And the same people are, you know, the people who are saying we need to protect the kids are being accused of being child molesters or protecting child molesters themselves. It's all some sort of smoke and mirrors, nonsensical bullshit, just to control the perspective of things and to make sure that whatever is good for the most people does not get out. I'm not saying that you can't use, you could use anything for the wrong reason. There's people on Roblox doing all sorts of ungodly stuff, targeting children, specifically on Roblox, but they have some sort of pass. They never go after Roblox specifically. Like if a kid gets abducted or gets talked into something that winds up being terrible for this kid. They built something that works, and this is how I know, because they're going after this guy and they want to take his livelihood. And the same thing kind of happened with the Telegram guy. Remember, he was Russian too. You couldn't get a backdoor into Telegram. Then they grabbed them in France. And who knows what happened over there. And I don't know either. But they put the pressure on the guy at the very least. I don't know what came out of that at the end of the day. But people who build things that wind up being good for regular people, they don't give a government the backdoor. The government didn't hand them the code and say, pretend like you made this. They go after these people. And, you know, I, for one, will not stand for that. I wish that God will grant me one of these protocols that's just as good for the world, and the government could come after me, because this is really I almost feel like we're fighting evil at this point.
Feels like it.
You know, it does feel like that. And, you know, I get passionate about this. I had like a whole thing I was going to say. I had like a outline script, and it kind of went out the window because it gets very irritating to me that they're able to get away with this. And the majority of people will look at this guy like, oh, he's either a spy or he's got to be no good because they charged him. And it's really, it's disgusting.
No, it's crazy. Honestly, I think it's an attack on freedom of speech once again, just in a different form. And I think that they're just finding ways to chop away at that kind of thing. And even if they aren't, or if they claim they aren't, it is what's happening, and it's going to slowly erode.
And see, here's the thing: like, people, they always get caught up on Roman Storm or Tornado Cash or what the crimes that were enabled by using Tornado Cash. At the end of the day, that's really not what's important in this case. Like, obviously, those are the terms of the case, but that's not what's at stake here. Because we had a major victory years ago where they ruled that code is protected speech. And that is the only reason we have any hope of any kind of privacy or anything like that today. If they are able to use this to overturn that and say that, no, we can go after developers of software that enables crime. Well, guess what? Proxies, VPNs, private mail, private message, every single one of them are now on the chopping block. Every single thing that you use to try to protect yourself online is now open game for prosecution. As soon as a criminal uses it, they can be like, nope, that was used to do a crime. Now you're liable. So it's not about Tornado Cash anymore. It's not about Roman Storm. Like, for him, it really is. They're trying to ruin his life but they're not even ruining his life because of him. They're trying to ruin his life to give them that leverage to pick and choose which types of software are allowed to be used. So they can say, no, you can't use that stuff, which is going to protect your privacy. We want you over here with the biometric verification, the age verification,
Make an
and
example of
all
them.
that information is going into Oracle's database where we have access to all of it. That's what's really at stake here. That's the point of this. That's why they're trying to nail him to the wall. It's not they don't even care about Roman Storm. What they're doing is they're trying to seize control of all software for the future, which has massive dire consequences for all of humanity if they're successful in that.
And non-custodial, like specifically non-custodial. So people think that Coinbase is on the team of is on the crypto team, and I don't want to outwardly speak too much because I don't feel like 100% that Coinbase specifically would be an enemy, but Coinbase is a centralized company. They might deal with decentralized assets, but you don't hold them in a wallet. They hold it for you, and you access their network. And kind of, if they feel like it, I use Coinbase. There's been times I can't pull my money off. I can't move it. You're not allowed to move your money. That's because I'm not in control of my wallet. Tornado Cash, this specific software, was non-custodial. You were in charge of it. That's another thing that they seem to really be going after. And they're making people think. They're making developers think, like, do I really want to get involved in this? And it's something we'll never be able to quantify. But how many developers had a great idea for a privacy application that was non-custodial that never got built because there was either, it was too ambiguous with the regulations, or they just didn't want to deal with the backlash if it was too good. And the government decided, like, you know what, this is not good for us because now we don't get to see where the money's going. We're not in charge at that point. Money, cash is basically the only assurance that you don't know. Or if we have gold and me and you go back and forth and I hand you gold and you hand me a product or a service, and nobody knows about that. And slowly but surely, they're taking all that away, tokenizing everything, which is not inherently bad, but it is if it becomes centralized. And they're really like splitting hairs with all these things, and they're controlling the vocabulary and the perspective. Because as a developer, now I'm speaking against tokenization because the users aren't in control. If the tokens are in a centralized exchange and they never really leave, they just change accounts within that centralized platform. That's no different than a bank. And that's obviously, what they're pushing for is that we're not in charge. And because they can't shut off a non-custodial wallet, but they could shut off my Coinbase account. Like if I get too rowdy, they can maybe contact Coinbase and say, all right, make sure you can't put money in or take money out. And they could do that because it's not my platform, that's theirs. My Phantom wallet, my Edge wallet, they can't do that because that's mine. That's specifically, I'm in control of that. Nobody, as long as I have the keys, that's it. That's mine. And I'm able to get in there. And it becomes so frustrating as somebody who's been, I've been in and around this since 2012. I watched the rise of Bitcoin, and I've seen that shift to where we are now. And just the entire mindset of the tech space has kind of changed, and almost like against a Roman storm. Why isn't the entire Bitcoin community trying to help out? They let Roger Ver blow in the wind. They were like, but he spoke out a bit against Bitcoin, so he's going to get what he deserves. He didn't even specifically speak out against Bitcoin, Roger. He spoke out against BTC. Bitcoin kind of lives on in Bitcoin Cash, in my specific, from where I'm coming from. But they just left them blowing there because they control the narrative. And obviously, it's going to take somebody better with their words than me to bring attention to this. But you know, I kind of tell everybody I know about this. My poor mother, who knows a little bit more about crypto than most people, but not, you know, obviously enough to really be using it on her own. She knows all about this case because I talk her ear off about this. I've told my cousins, my aunts, anybody that'll kind of listen. And I don't know if it's if I'm reaching people to the point where they realize like they're going to strip all our freedom away. And by the time you realize it, it's going to be way too late because everybody kind of let these little things slide here and there.
That's the point.
You know, that's kind of everybody. That's every one of us up there. That's, you know, I'm not wishing it, but obviously we even know that could be any company, any of the friends that we have in other companies who are building anything that's good for the people and not selling data and not inherently spying on people. To kind of jump back into this thing with Roman, he is due back in court now on October sometime. I think it's October 26th. It's right before Halloween. And I urge anybody to hit me up. Anybody that's in the tri-state area, I'm going to be putting together a protest or a group of protests to show a physical presence that people are kind of disgusted, because I don't know if they think we're just voices or bots within the internet, but we're real people. I know there's places like the EFF that have been really fighting hard for the protected speech aspect of this, and I know that they're helping that out, helping them out in terms of outreach, probably lawyers, I'm quite sure. And these people are really quite amazing, because I'm sure most of them were either pre-law or lawyers, and they know this stuff backwards and forwards. But anybody that is interested in this, I would check out freeromanstorm.com. There's a simple way to donate to his campaign, and also to, even if you can't, perhaps just send the link to other people, bring some sort of awareness to this, throw up a post, follow Roman, and everybody else in there for that matter, because these are the people who are fighting for causes that most people don't even realize that are even important. The fight is obviously regulatory and legal at this point. You know, the guest you're having on next week is one of, I'm not going to say a mentor, but he is definitely somebody that I look up to in the space. Really good at explaining things and walking the story from beginning, middle to end, and all the reading in between the lines, because a lot of the story and a lot of the facts are in between the lines with these things, and that's on purpose. It's either things are written very vague, or there's backroom deals, and Aaron Day has a very good insight into the industry. He's been around a really long time. I know he's close to Roger Ver, so he's witnessed with his own eyes how low down and rotten the DOJ could be at times. Yeah, it's like almost mind blowing because of the things that are going. There's things that are going on that are so wrong, and they're like so obvious, and they're
Like
going,
you wouldn't believe.
and they're throwing everything at a developer. You know, and this isn't some guy that's like out there screaming, you know, fuck the police. He's not out there bad mouthing the DOJ. He seems like a pretty well-mannered guy. Roman Storm, obviously very intelligent. He's cryptographically inclined. He understands complex subject matter, and he was able to turn all of that into a great solution for just everyday people that didn't want their accounts and their transactions just wide open out there to be audited by Jerry down the block, you know, or anybody with access to the internet, because that's what many of these blockchains are, that don't have any sort of privacy protocols built in, like Monero. For people watching out there, Monero is just a completely private cryptocurrency. Well, you see that there was a sender and a receiver, and that's similar to, it's built in a different manner, but very similar to something like this. And not all of them are like that. So he created a solution for that on Ethereum, and he's really getting the raw end of the stick here with that. I was kind of curious if anybody has ever used, anybody on the panel has ever used this particular solution before it was taken down.
Okay. No.
No, I can't say I have.
No,
Not
I just wasn't.
To be honest, like I had never heard of Tornado Cash or the story or anything until you were telling me about it a while ago. And then I started looking into it and I was just like, holy crap, this is insane. And I thought,
I
like
heard about
I'm
it.
really tapped into like privacy and a lot of tech stuff. So I was sort of amazed that I hadn't heard of it. So I was like, I'm sure there's probably other people, and I was asking, and Nathan and Shane hadn't really heard of it. So I'm like, this is something
Yep.
people need to talk about more because there's a lot at stake here.
It's where finance and tech met, because this wasn't like purely, the industry wasn't just purely fintech the way it seems now. It seems most of crypto has become just kind of traditional fintech in blockchain. This was real cypherpunk type of principles put into code and injected into the cryptocurrency industry. And it's amazing to me that just there's not more people on Twitter. I guess Twitter's not a good gauge of really what is actually real. I think a lot of it is curated.
You don't say.
Yeah, not that
I don't think there's anywhere left that is a good gauge of what is real, right?
That's the problem. Yeah.
How do you guys get your, like, we're all kind of close, but just how do you guys get the bulk of your information in terms of just like current events?
It's spread out for me, I think. It's pretty spread out.
Yeah.
I'm mostly, and I'm currently on a social media hiatus, like just because for my own mental health. But usually Hacker News and Reddit, and things like Bitcoin.com, or I'll check news.google.com and I'll kind of get a story, and then I'll kind of see that story on Reddit or Hacker News, so I know it's something of importance when other people are talking about it. But usually Hacker News, that's usually the place to go to.
Now, for Hacker News, do you feel like Hacker News is pushing a narrative, like, I don't mean an opinion, like pushing a specific narrative with just everything in general? Does it feel like it's moving?
I would say no. Like the Hacker News itself, like Y Combinator, like I'm not a fan of Y Combinator at all, and I'm not a fan of like Sam Altman at all, even though he's not with Y Combinator. I do feel like they're ruining the tech scene. But the forum itself is just like where all the engineers of the world go to. But no, I wouldn't say they're pushing a narrative. I think they're mostly anti-crypto, though. They call it like Ponzi scheme stuff, but they should know any better, right? You can just press one button and convert it to cash. So they I don't think the opinion on there was that this guy's a criminal. I just think that they have a negative view of crypto because there's a lot of egos in San Fran is the way to say it. Like I've had a lot of stupid arguments, and me being a COO, I'm always right, because I'm just amazing like that. But everybody else is right is the thing, and it's an ego thing. So with crypto, they talk a lot of shit, but at the same time too, they probably couldn't hack it or
You really have to sift through all the information, data. I think even article by article, you have to sift through any kind of biases and use your judgment, and really think critically, use discernment,
Yes.
into how this journalism is being presented to you, because we're in an age of, sensationalism and just completely being bombarded with all these different angles and agendas, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it becomes way harder to trust an institution such as, like, you know, like the New York Times or Washington Post or whatever. And, you know, what it's turning into is trusting an individual journalist, which can also be a slippery slope. So it's like Susie just said, you really have to just kind of sift through and discern for yourself these days.
Yeah, it was wild too. So I'm sure you're all aware that like AI, that one problem with it is these hallucinations. And like I actually watched the other day, there was a politician. She was getting reamed out because she'd cited a bunch of legal cases that were not real because she just used ChatGPT to help prepare the case, and they were like flipping out on her because that's ridiculous. And so that's a real thing that it'll literally fabricate stories and just invent news that didn't happen. And I
Oh,
have
it's
seen
terrible.
on websites where people are using ChatGPT or other AI to write articles that are on blogs and on news sites. And I've seen, and it's funny because sometimes the links in the article will have like the UTM source of ChatGPT.com right in it. Like they forgot to remove that out of the link, so it's like a dead giveaway. But I've seen those where they're citing fake information that ChatGPT made up, and it's like you're a news site that's telling people this is the facts, but you're using AI and you're not even fact checking the information coming out of it, and you're just saying made up material here just to support a narrative. So like, yeah, I mean, it's at the age where it used to be you read the news and that's how you got your information about the world. Now you have to read the news and then go cross check it with 15 other sources to see what the actual news is and try to get to the real truth. Like everybody kind of has to be their own journalist, investigative journalist now to actually figure out what's going on.
That's the scary part is what if you believe the wrong thing now, and now you've been veered into this other thing where you're spreading the misinformation yourself.
And you see how we're interested in digital privacy as a whole, or even in real life privacy. And that would be, I guess, the sector of or the area of interest that we're all interested in. Crypto kind of fractured into like, well, there's Bitcoin Cash, there's Ethereum, there's Solana, and then, there's about 555 other chains that you could possibly be associated with. And not even really the Ethereum network is too outspoken about helping this guy, because should kind of be flooding the timeline. My timeline is kind of like I build on Solana, but who I follow, the news that I'm interested in isn't Solana specific. But I don't see like a lot of people really going out of their way to defend or bring attention to this case in the way that I believe that it should be brought. This is a tech issue. This isn't even like a cryptocurrency issue, or this is a privacy.
Yeah, it's a precedent. This is a principle thing.
Yes.
Exactly.
It really is.
And to bring that across, like I wish I had better skills and speaking ability to get that point across to people that this is not about cryptocurrency. This is about,
You're doing great though.
They're gonna set up a precedent, and down to like buried within that. What's the thing that happened in '72 with kind of how we got to where we're at now with third party doctrine? Is that you can't have reasonable expectation for privacy on like if you're using specific services. I know that I just botched that bad, but it was sometime in the 70s where they came up with, well, you don't have reasonable expectation of privacy on a payphone. And then it became, you don't have reasonable expectation for privacy on a cell phone. And then you don't have reasonable expectation for privacy in your bathroom. Like, where do you have a reasonable expectation for privacy? And then if you go out of your way to get privacy, you're doing something wrong. We talk about
it
it a
shouldn't be
lot.
a crime.
Say it's Orwellian, and it's. I feel like Winston. Yeah.
Wanting privacy is not a crime.
It's I was reading
No,
this.
but it
Yeah.
seems that it can be labeled as such is the sad part.
Even reading that book that I posted the other day, I don't know if I sent it to Shane. I think I threw it up there. I said, maybe you'd be interested in this. It's this designing secure software book, like just to be reading something, who knows, maybe you pick up a new angle on things. It's a kind of technical book. And the way it's written, and maybe it's me, the way I'm looking at it is almost like massaging developers into like, don't try to give too much, like, don't really go too out of your way, because it could, it might not be the best software solution. That's obvious. The best way to identify somebody would be the most authoritarian, right? Like if it would be invasive. You would have all my information on my forehead. You'd scan my forehead, and then you would know everything about me, and that's it. That would be the best solution from like a strictly technical standpoint. If you throw out principles, freedoms, all of that. And I almost feel like this book was massaging my brain into like, well, you might want to go for the fastest route, and the fastest route is going to be screw these people. And it's like, wow, I can't believe this is almost like, it's written well, obviously. It's written in very, in great intellectual English. The way it's presented is great. It's a good book. But it feels like it's pushing people who are building away from caring about like the rights of people, like just the most human of things that we have. And it's like,
Yeah, that's the issue.
And
That's really the issue.
it is a big issue, because now, especially with Google, like you can't write code for Google without giving away your information, right? If you want to be your online alias and stuff and write code and distribute it so people can use software freely on their devices, now you can't even do that. Like they're just withering that away slowly.
Even when you're building something, like everybody's using an agent for something, right? You're using AI assistance for something. I implore anybody out there, make sure that you're using like for important, if you're building something, use a localized AI that really only you have access to build, because there's not even to say that they're giving you bad builds almost, or injecting the code with harmful or insecure architecture. It's you can't rely too much on these solutions that are coming from the people we're fighting. Oh my God, that took a lot out of. I'm almost like physically exhausted from this.
Yeah, it can be, and it can drain your social battery as well. Like
It
when
boggles.
you utilize that much
boggles
mental
me.
energy. It's even like ask Susie, like even some days after some of those longer streams and stuff, I'm so mentally drained from just hearing my own voice, even that and there was like one day where my fucking jaw hurt. Like it was like, oh my God, am I getting lockjaw? Like my jaw muscles actually hurt.
It truly boggles the mind to think about all of these things and how to even, how do we even stop this? Because I'm just one person, who wants this, but I know I'm not the only person.
No. And just as a shameless plug, I'm putting up a new chapter on the Shadow Ranch, centering around Roman. So he'll be written into history of Shadow Ranch for the rest of eternity. And I'll be up later tonight. I wasn't able to push it through before.
And that's a great thing. Thank you so much for that, because the cyberpunk movement they created the things like HTTPS, the technologies that underlie behind these, the entire worldwide fucking web, for God's sake, the very technologies behind Steam games that download to you, to ensure that you own a subscription to it. These are things that, were pioneered, and just kind of from people don't realize these things. A lot of people I've seen that got into the crypto space, even they just saw NFTs, and NFTs are like some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen in some regards. But the technology is really cool. But they didn't care about technology. They just cared about, selling a fucking monkey picture. And that was about it. No respects to the actual people who put their knowledge and efforts into making these really cool things, right? These are like,
like whatever happens to those math geeks. I'm not gonna call them geeks, but those very mathematically, I would say, super intelligent minds that are like in universities and colleges, and what do they go off to do and stuff? Like, what can you do with mathematics and stuff like that, right? Well, they can utilize their skill sets. There's a lot of people that enjoy math. There's a lot of people that enjoy, the things that may be confusing to the rest of us. Like me, I can't do math very well. But I've seen some of the engineering that goes into this stuff, and it just shows some love and respect for it, because the smartest people in the world and stuff, they're mostly private. You wouldn't know if you walk past somebody at a grocery store that they can do like some super advanced algorithms in just their mind, let alone express it to a digital creation. And I think that's an amazing thing. It's one of the most amazing things to see. But people, I honestly, like the way society is right now, I think people are clapping at the wrong things, cheering all the wrong things, and overlooking the actual good things and stuff, right? So, back in the day, exactly. I'm like, wow, this is game changer. It's going to change the world, man. No, people are still watching The Fucking Voice. They're watching America's Got Talent and stuff, clapping for some crazy shit going on, and everything just goes overlooked. Nothing ever changes, and it's like, wow, it's kind of fucking depressing. And then even looking at this stuff, what they're doing with Roman Storm here. Meanwhile, they're letting the actual bad motherfuckers out there go. So it's like, wait a second, you're making an example of another person? What are you going to pardon him in a couple of years after you get done doing a political bullshit that you're doing? And now they just dropped the sanctions with fucking Russia. So it's like, oh, he violated temporary sanctions because Russia invaded fucking Ukraine? Like, and it's why is that a us thing, right? Why is that go against the people who are actually expressing human innovation, right? Not just human innovation, but it's the next evolution of what will be in society. I mean, the fucking Donald Trump president just did a crypto rug pull on America from his meme coin after quote unquote getting shot in the fucking ear. Like literally made a meme coin after getting shot in the ear and rug pulled America. Like, he did that. So if we're going to be making examples out of anybody, like I don't need the examples to be made. All I have to do is just look with my own two fucking eyeballs and see what's actually happening and be like, what in the absolute fuck are these people thinking? And so whatever it is, there's always some political motivation. There's always some bureaucratic stuff. I don't even know the words at this point. Like, it's just, my mind is so tired of it. Like I said, I would say pushed away from social media just because my brain can only withstand a barrage of bullshit to some degree, right? And like I've met my limits to these things. When I talk about Roman Storm or we speak about this, it actually pisses me off. It does piss me off. Like, why wouldn't it piss me off? Is that these people write code. I know some of the smartest people ever in this world. I mean, these are people who've gotten rich beyond fucking belief, right? Just normal, really chill people. And they really just had some really great ideas and ran with these things, right? And that's what any innovation is about. And then if we want to have any human advancement whatsoever, and I do think we live in critical times for human advancement, why wouldn't these innovations exist, right? And why couldn't these things instead be like, oh, hey, that's crazy, instead of like, let's land a barrage of bullshit on Roman Storm. Hey, why can't we use these technologies to advance other things, right? Like universities, or how two countries can interact with each other, that are allies and stuff in the United Nations or something, right? Like they can actually, have their own thing going on, whatever it may be. That way the actual wicked and the bad motherfuckers in the world can't go spy on them and can't go
and this is
their
something
shit,
that
right?
That we talk about all the time, right, Shane? Like there's the builders and then there's the regulators, right? There's the people who have ideas and they want to build something, they want to create something new, and then there's the people who want to clamp down on that and they want to charge a fee, or they want to put, regulations on these types of things and say, you can't do this, you can't do that. And, that's really the divergence in society today, I think.
It is a divergence. And that's just one of the words for this. Bitcoin's been out since 2010, ish. And now regulation is just now getting to it. Like Barron Trump just shorted like Ethereum and Bitcoin and made 150 million. So really it's taken this long just because the regulators needed to figure out how they're going to get their slice of the pie and integrate it into the fucking machine in which they control. I'm sorry, but Wall Street's bullshit. Like it's 100%
exactly.
bullshit. It's like these people sit out there on their fucking balconies, they look down at us drinking wine. And I've seen this with the Occupy Wall Street stuff. I wasn't part of that. I wasn't involved with that in any way, but I saw like the videos of like these rich motherfuckers looking down and even spitting on crowds of people. So that's the thing is like the regulators and shit, they can all fuck off. I don't care. Like all I care about is the innovation and the human advancement aspect to it, because this stuff makes your mind think. And when somebody like me, like I've tried, I've looked into, the creation of cryptocurrencies and smart contracts. And while my mind can probably grasp things and make sense of it, I can't do half of what these crypto developers out there can do. And some of the stuff that they talked about while I'm sitting there at like, the table of like these really smart, rich people, and some of the things that they say as far as like how to create the technology or use existing technology and create a new solution attached to it so that they can integrate it and make a solution for some big ass problems that I didn't even know existed, but still exist in the very underlying foundation of how the internet works today. So I've seen it all. I've already thought about it all and stuff. It's brought me to some great philosophies. How do we determine identity? Things of this nature. And it really makes you wonder, because it will be a future like with cryptographic keys as our identity to prove who we are. We already kind of have that with our banking cards, our Visa credit cards. They have a secure chip on them, so you can tap it on a fucking screen, and then that way it just knows who to charge and what to charge and interact, and that way your PIN number doesn't get stolen. So cryptography is already in our everyday lives. But this thing with the whole Roman storm, it doesn't even raise questions for me, honestly, and I'm sure it doesn't for you guys either. I think we our eyes are open and we see what's actually going on. Did it actually facilitate in money laundering these types of ordeals? It really at this level and stuff. If he had nothing to do with the cash itself and it was just a smart contract system where all these other things where you can literally press a button and exchange some of your like tokens or coins for like Bitcoin or whatever other coin, it's no different from that. The only difference is that the smart contract spins it all up so that there's anonymity attached to it. We look at things like Freedom USD, like in Zano, right? Like these things are anonymous transactions. There's many of these tokens and coins out there in which you can send from one wallet to the next. And then there's no identifying signatures between you, point A, and their wallet, point B, that shows that you sent them the money, right? Well, I mean, if you're, like you said, if you're collecting a salary, the world doesn't need to know your salary, right? You have whatever the thing that was said earlier about an expectation of privacy if you use the services. It kind of makes sense, right? There's terms of service agreements and everything, but there is an expectation of privacy. There is a right to privacy, and that's why things like the Fourth Amendment exist, right? That's something that goes overlooked is that you have a right to can contact somebody privately, and you have a right to make private transactions. And I don't think there's really any true disagreement with that, as seen by our own U.S. government and by Donald Trump himself, who created a fucking meme coin in which his Trump Digital makes money off of every transaction that's happening on the chain. So not only are they making money because the line goes up and they can trade it for other coins and cash, but they're also making money when people are transacting it to each other because they control all the nodes that process the transactions on that. And that's not something that Tornado Cash did or does, right? It just has a consensus mechanism behind it to ensure that the data that's happening and being transferred is what it says it is, and there's no what do they call it? It's not fungible. It can't be fucked with, right? And so the underlying technology behind all of these things is there's no arguments. I'm sorry, but there is nobody that exists or can exist that can sit right in front of me and give me an argument as to why this is bad, right? And it's nobody. It's just not possible. And if any of you are out there who would like to come discuss this with me and show me that I'm wrong, I would absolutely love to be wrong, because in respects to human innovation, human advancement and really just some really cool fucking technology and the love for it because it's fucking cool. I just can't see an argument that makes this look bad. The only thing that looks bad is there's a bunch of idiots making decisions and making examples out of people with the intention of what? Like, what are they gaining out of this? And they're gaining the ability to trace everything that's happening around the world.
And that's the thing. Right, exactly. So all they're doing is they're just increasing their control and making sure that they have the control over these systems. It's not like they're trying to improve anything.
There's no way that it can't be bypassed, right? They're like, oh, well, it violated sanctions. Well, how about if Russia was like, well, shit, we can't move money because they shut us down through SWIFT and they got control and lockdown on all the cryptocurrency. Why can't they just go to some other country and be like, hey, give us a trillion Beanie Babies right now, and then we're going to sell those and make money, or we're going to give you a trillion Beanie Babies, and then you give us the cash for it, but the cash is actually for these other services, right? Make it look like one thing, but it's actually another. Isn't that money laundering? I don't think that happened in this case. I really don't. But I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a financial expert on this stuff, so I kind of get no say in it. But from the observer point of view and stuff, come on, like, cut the bullshit.
Christopher, you want to finish that presentation? There's some more slides in there.
Yeah, if you want to jump in, I think we might have covered what the information has said here. Hold on a second. I got this here. I kind of got thrown off of my my flow here. Look for my notes. There was did we have the other there was 2 pitch decks that I sent. There was just some information.
Oh, you want to switch over to that one now?
Yeah, just because I kind of lost the flow. Sorry, everybody. I kind of lost the flow of where I was going with how it was.
Okay, why don't we take a quick intermission then, and let everybody stretch their legs, get some drinks or whatever they got to do, and then we'll hit that one up as soon as we get back.
All right.
Sound cool?
That's great.
Sounds good. We'll be right back.
Excellent. And yeah, we'll see you in a few. Once I remember how to do that.
T-minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes.
Yeah. Every click, every move, yeah, they're watching the feed, showing ads for the things that you don't really need. They want all the data, they want your ID, but I've got some news that just won't work for me. So I encrypt the connection and cover my tracks. We get to the truth and we stick to the facts. We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak, what you want to share is
T-minus 1 minute.
Look, the world is exposed. photos, yeah, the walls are thin. Everybody posting every place that they've been. Trading privacy for likes, that's a heavy cost. In the ocean of data, the person gets lost. So we flip the switch, yeah, we go underground. Moving through the silence without making a sound. Not hiding because you are doing something wrong. Just defending your rights before they are gone. The room is secure, so let the session start. Speak from the brain or speak from the heart. Tell us your story, we unlock the doors. We invite the guests, and yeah, the
30
floor is
seconds.
yours. You can keep the mask on, keep it low key. Privacy is priceless, but opinions are free. We amplify the voices that they try to call weak. Welcome to the stream, time to hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, it's our choice.
10, 9,
Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not having a voice.
5, 4,
What you
3,
wanna share is only your choice.
1.
Hide and speak.
Welcome back, everybody. We're vp.net. We're here with Mr. Cialone, and we're going over Roman Storm and the Tornado Cash. I would say that they're trying to make an example out of this individual. So we have a lot to talk about and a lot more to cover. Mr. Christopher Cialone, go ahead. Oh, your microphone's muted.
Yeah, so kind of jumping back to into the actual contents of the case. This isn't just about the code or money laundering or anything. A lot of this is coming down to the First Amendment, where we're going to go with the decentralized governance and the Bank Secrecy Act. Let's see. It's some maniac outside blasting his radio. Okay. So really, the case with the Samurai developers kind of overlaps into this in a kind of strange way. They both involve the First Amendment, and challenging if code is actually protected. And the government is arguing that it is not protected speech, which is what really makes all of this all the more kind of nerve-wracking for users of the internet. There's the International Emergency Economic Power Act and the Berman Amendments. Congress forbids the executive branch from directly or indirectly prohibiting transactions in information or information materials, which is how they're charging Roman Storm or any developer thereafter with kind of conspiracy charges if you publish the wrong type of code. It's kind of like a weighty sentence, but kind of the way I think about it is code is just a list of instructions, and more or less, right? Like there's conditional statements. If you press this button, then this is going to happen. I enter my name, I press enter, then the code is going to make sure that that name is sent off to the database. They decided a while ago in one of their landmark cases that just escaping my mind right this second, that this is free speech. What is going on here is an expression of your it's an expression of your oh my God.
It's just expression. That's all it needs to be said, right? And that's just like free speech is in the same
It's
sense
freedom
of
of
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah, lost
So,
my
it's protected.
that social battery is going down. So with this, if they're able to finagle this and prosecute Roman of these charges, it's going to affect much more than cryptocurrency or finance or anything. This is going to go down. They're going to take that literally and charge basically whoever they kind of feel like based off of that precedent. When a law is made and something happens, lawyers always go back, well, there's a precedent for this, and let's see if we could stretch it to mean what I needed to mean in this specific case. So that could go all the way down to, like right now, we all kind of know that a hot topic is that you can't speak out against certain military action. Well, what if saying that going to war in Iran was no longer considered free speech, and that this actually is a conspiracy to rile people up to think that we shouldn't be at war, and then stretching that to mean something else. And that's really what all of us are kind of scared of.
It's ridiculous.
With all
I
of
mean, I
this.
think we've seen plenty of times in history where people, protested about the war, and the government took some pretty extreme actions that now get taught in school as dark moments in history. But now we're seeing it, running head forward, right back into that same kind of behavior.
Yeah, they sit there trying to discredit the people. I mean, they literally didn't they call one of the people who got shot by ICE a domestic terrorist or something like that? And it's like, no, they were just
they
a
call-
regular person.
That's a lot of different things. Yeah, absolutely. They can't attack the person, their actions. They just go after the person themselves and try to dehumanize them until you feel it's justified to do whatever to them.
They
Chris,
try their best.
Chris, I can't control the slides, but could you go to the one that says competing realities, the nature of tornado care? It's like I think it's the third slide in this. Yes. Okay. So this is kind of like what they're arguing in, and what the defense is going to argue. And you can kind of like look at it for yourself and say like, oh, okay, like I see where this is going. So the prosecution is saying they're an unlicensed money transmitter, and this is only for criminals. This is why we're prosecuting this gentleman. And what in actuality is happening is that they just created a protocol in which any human being can have a transaction that's private, that nobody can audit. Like the bank makes you an order, you get it audited by the IRS. That means they're going to come in and they're going to look at every single every receipt you might have laying around, whether or not you reported this. Now, while we could argue whether or not the IRS should be able to do that, I'll tell you, the guy down the block definitely shouldn't be able to do it, or your neighbor shouldn't definitely be able to do it. And for better or worse right now, public blockchains like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, these are all open. They're transparent. You can go and look at, if you have a wallet address, you could go and see every single transaction. You could see how much money is being held in that wallet, which is probably one of the downsides of the technology right now. We're still kind of working all that out, right? We're building the plane while it's in midair. So Roman is saying, okay, well, I just created this for a legitimate purpose for people to, you can make a donation in Ukraine and that can't be held against you. Or we might not think that happens in America, but that's like 20 years ago. That's happening here. Like you're being looked at with a jaundiced eye if you make donations on either side of the aisle. You don't know who is going to be coming at you for what reason. It's best just, wouldn't it be great if all that was private, right? Like right now we're in a situation where we have de facto, it's either one tyranny or the other at this point right now, right? Whatever we kind of thought was going on here isn't, or whatever was taught when we were kids about the three branches of government and all this happy horse shit. It turns out that this was an ideal that we right now aren't reaching because for whatever reason we're in like a corrupt era of politics and business. Okay. The more corrupt, the more private you want all of the information to be. And this doesn't, you could even take this idea down to an email or to your conversations with your friends. You want I don't know, I would prefer to have an encrypted messaging system, like that nobody's reading my messages in between, or that can't be, that can't be read. Remember, Apple was fighting. They didn't want, we're not opening that up to the feds. We're not we're not giving up these conversations, even with a subpoena.
And what did they do?
They went and just did it in the United Kingdom, and then nothing, like literally nobody bitched about it. I mean, the ones that did bitch about it, who cares? This is how it is now. Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean,
And then they stole that. Didn't they take that code and use it themselves? The people who they got it from. So
and I mean, it's
essentially making it all unsafe.
We're kind of just going to go back and forth with being told one thing and another thing happening. It's just like your retirement. Like, I don't have a 401k. I don't work for a big company. I don't have anything like that. I got to make my own retirement. You kind of have to make your own privacy. You have to make it. You're in charge of your own information, and I think that's kind of like a tough pill for everybody to swallow, because there's people that, for whatever reason, we either like or trust telling us something, and it's not true. And the guy that you like might not be in there, right? There's guys that might like Trump. Oh, he's in right now. Well, he's not going to be in next time. How about that? And if
Man,
you
he
like,
could be. Yeah,
right,
we don't know.
you know what I mean?
We're
Like,
kind of seeing it gear up. Like, even since COVID days, I've been kind of
Please
just waiting
no.
for the world to fucking like fail. Like, it just seems like the curtains are coming down and the whole stage is collapsing on itself.
well,
The theater is over. You know what I mean? But now it's like, it's kind of fucking cliche what's going on. He even said, like, if we go to war, I could technically just just keep myself as president. After he even joked about this and saying it, like, and knowing these guys, nothing is ever like, there's this projection. They literally told us the fucking plan in which they're going to do with the Project 2025. So now these guys luckily are pro crypto, but honestly, they're just more pro money, right? They're just assholes.
I don't think that they're pro crypto at all. I think that
they're pro getting the crypto to pay them.
So, I mean, obviously if he was pro crypto, the charges on Roger would have been dropped immediately. He wouldn't have had to pay no $50 million or whatever it ended up being that he had to pay. Samurai Wallet wouldn't be sitting in jail with the Free Liberty guy talking about that every day. His best friends on Spaces every day. I mean, could you imagine that? Your best friend being locked up for one of these? It's like crazy. Like, they took Shane away because of vp.net. They took Shane, Chris, and Nate away. They're gone. Like, what?
Hey, don't manifest it and shit.
No,
The helicopters.
Ideas,
You know what I mean?
Let them take me. Just send me commissary.
The black bags do exist. And then when the van pulls up and you're just sitting there like eating your ice cream cone, mind you'll be like, ah, shit,
run.
Damn it. It's just, that's just how it is. What's crazy is, like, even CZ from Binance was, I think, pardoned, right? And he was like charged with money laundering or whatever it was for because actual criminals were using the platform, and then it was just ruled that, oh wait, he wasn't liable for that because he did his best, and they still use the platform. Like, if they can't do it directly, they'll just go get power over somebody, use them via proxy, and then funnel everything through them, and then fuck them up. It's just how it's how evil operates, right? Especially when it comes to like North Korea. I don't give a fuck about you.
Justin's son was with Tron. Tron had something happened, and it coincided perfectly with donations. He bought a whole bunch of World Liberty and Trump tokens, and then all of a sudden his legal troubles kind of like quieted down and went away.
Wow.
They flared back up. They put some pressure back on him, but so they're saying that that Roman and the Tornado Cash guys knew what was going on with Lazarus, and they're like, dude, do you guys know how to read code? Because it's a third party using my it's like they don't even understand what they're prosecuting. Like,
so many degrees of separation there.
I made this pen and somebody wrote a death threat, and they're like, well, go get Chris. That's it. You got to lock him up because he made the pen that created the death threat, or whatever the case is. It's really no more ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. That's actually a good analogy. Or why not just go after the actual hardware makers, because we couldn't do any of this without the hardware. And at what point does that really Yeah, right. Nothing happens. We get screwed is what happens.
Well, and that's a big issue too when you place everything on assumption instead of intention, right? Because what is somebody's intention with creating some of these softwares or solutions, right? Versus somebody's assumption that they can assume that you are doing it for a bad reason. Whereas, all I wanted to do was let point A communicate with point B and send them $5, right?
For sure. Chris, if you go down too, because we already covered the Swift thing kind of good, and Shane came in and saved the day with an amazing explanation of Swift. When they took down, I think it's it's with the circles. Yeah, right there. So when they took down the repository, like I alluded to earlier, they were teaching and showing different use cases, and just that anything could be built in universities. By taking this down, we don't even know what effect that had on like the intangible effect that has on people. So everybody isn't like, oh, well, they're doing that, fuck them. Like I don't care, I'll take that on. Like everybody isn't that way. If you hear that there's trouble building certain applications, most people are going to stay well away from the line. They're not even going to push the envelope. And these could be the brightest minds in the world that could make, who knows, they could solve any number of problems. And by doing this, by putting pressure on this application specifically, and then taking how often do they do that? Just remove the repo, and they had GitHub do that. It's just Microsoft, obviously. Like that's just another extension of the government in a way. But still, they took down a repo that anybody could have read, researched. You could use it to educate yourself, and that's got far-reaching implications. Like that's almost like burning books, kind of like what they said.
It really is.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's one party or the other. I'm saying that the government apparatus is only interested in strengthening the government apparatus, and that's not good for like citizens. And that's why everybody kind of needs to be more well versed in these things. That this professor that's here right here, kind of brave, because he came out and spoke up. This guy Matthew Green. And kind of a cool, not for nothing, kind of a cool professor to be teaching about Tornado Cash, like right after it was built and deployed, to show his students, like, look, like technology is taking off exponentially. We're going to be able to you could build anything that you could think of, or think outside the box, build it, see what happens. Like that might have curbed a lot, and not that you necessarily need to learn development or engineering in a university, as I didn't, but they're going to try to kill the open source community little by little, slowly but surely, with these cases, by scaring off law-abiding citizens, and then really turning people who weren't like criminally minded. It's like, well, they're gonna turn people that are like, well, why can't you do that? Like, why not? Why can't you? Is there a reason? Is it within the law? Okay, it's within the law. Well, if they're gonna make laws to override existing laws, which they've been doing for quite a while now, like, well, where's the line stop? That guy Stephen Perez was he was speaking, I guess it was last week. And he, incredibly intelligent guy. And I would have loved to pick his brain a little bit about what he thinks, and like how best to move forward and mobilize people with something like this. Because this, without numbers, without like actual volume and people pitching a bitch, they're going to just run us over and do whatever they want. They kept everybody inside with COVID. They shut the world down. They never thought they could do it. right? They'll never shut the world down. Well, they shut the world down. On that basis, anything is on the table and anything is possible. The world is kind of like a crazy little place right now, and we have to fight for every little inch of freedom that we still have left. In the next slide here, it's just a spectrum of free speech, of protected speech, and how it's kind of looked at in a legal, from a legal standpoint. Shane was saying, and Susie, that code is speech, which is true. And then they did this bullshit where they started breaking code down into different levels of what that code means.
That's just manipulative.
Right. And now we're dealing with, okay, these are opinions. Now these are opinions because a discriminatory hiring algorithm. But whenever you're dealing with like the way words are being manipulated now, people are always going to be able to do bad. And it seems like we're always coming from a place like, let's try to stop bad. And in order to stop bad, we have to take away your rights. And as people on Earth, we have to accept that some people are going to take advantage of things, and that's just like how it is. You know, like you got to go get it after you do it. Yeah, you're not going to stop people from doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
It's which price you're willing to pay.
You're not going
Is
to
it
do
your
that.
privacy or the fact that you're willing to let a certain percentage of people get away with the system?
And how many tornado caches exist like on that don't have a website? You know what I mean? That are out there that do the same thing. And nobody even knows about this shit, right? And it's technology that it's going to exist. It's going to be utilized, and if it's not already, it definitely will be. And that's that.
Well, and what about the tornado caches that got blocked before they even got popular, right?
Yes,
because that's the real thing. It's like now what we're doing is we are stifling new generations of intelligence and products and software. So we are telling people, no, you can't do that, right? So we are telling people, if you have a great idea, sorry, we can't do that because somebody already has control of that. And I think that's the real problem. And that's more so just on a societal level where it's like we are now the first species that is trying to stop ourselves from
limit itself. Yes. You're right, 100%. I didn't mean to cut you off, but a tree grows to as tall as a tree could go. It's never like, this is good enough. This seems like I'm being too greedy.
Oh, no, exactly. Yeah.
And that's a great point. I just wanted to touch on this spectrum real quick. With this is, again, kind of whoever is in control is going to be dictating what these words that we're even reading right now even mean. Yeah. The entire this entire code is speech spectrum thing is just another way to well, look at what we'll take now. There's certain words that we use today that would be unsavory maybe 5-10 years ago, or vice versa, whatever the case is. It's just the way times are. And everything is coming down to rule by decree, because the government could never deploy rules and then be like, well, we can't change that late. Like, we don't know if we mean that later. Or with any of these laws, right? Like, and not that it's like I don't want to really dive into this too tough either, but like even the amendments, right? Or any law, there's federal law and then there's state law. Well, which one overrides which? It's like you're walking on eggshells everywhere you go. The internet was ours. This is where you could go to just be like, oh, great. I could just like be me and try my new ideas. I could write and get my ideas out. There's no way that people aren't self-centering, even their blogs. And it's all the same type of tyrannical push, just in a different direction, kind of self-censoring. Now we're self-censoring code, the things that we build. The AI will soon tell you there's parameters. You cannot build that. And then what are we going to do? Because people aren't even going to know how to build soon. How many people learn how to build pre-chat pre-chat GPT.
Yeah.
Because if you took away an AI assistant right now, it might take a little while for people who have been utilizing it to bounce back. You would bounce back. Okay, I'll read, like I'll just, I'll grab a textbook. I'll start fucking around again and kind of get back into the system of failure and success, pivoting and not hitting like, okay, AI fix this. Okay, there's a bug, fix this. And we're losing all of this all at the same time. It's happening like amazing. It's really, you couldn't write a better script than what is happening right now. People losing the ability to think for themselves, to work for themselves, and to think outside of the box anymore, all at the same time. And even the people who are kind of cheering for, like, I don't want to be told what to do. They're just cheering for another sort of tyranny. We have to break things down as a species, kind of base level, and see what's best for us again. Like, so you're gonna, freedom of speech, you're gonna get your feelings hurt. Also, that means that there's going to be things built that you don't like. I mean, that's just, everything isn't for everybody. And again, intent. Nate said intent. The intent with this was never like, oh, this is great. Now spies and hackers can move money around without government intervention, which might not even be a negative, to be honest with you, because what if the government is tyrannical? So they shouldn't be the ones regulating whether or not, it's like taking away your guns. If they take away all the guns, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever has guns. The same thing kind of goes for anonymity, privacy, or any sort of technology. If they take that away, then you will be at the kind of at the mercy of whoever has more powerful tech. Sam Altman just said the other day that they want intelligence to be a commodity. I posted it up on X, and obviously I got like 6 people to even look at it. But
saw that though.
it's insane. That intelligence is an ability. And they're even massaging this into the youth. Like, no, intelligence is a commodity.
And what's crazy is like there's even like think groups that are basically saying that like it's almost time to do away with the education system, and they're saying that it doesn't make any sense to have kids waste all these important years of their life sitting there getting information and trying to memorize stuff that they could easily just pull up from ChatGPT or something like that. So they're actually pushing to this idea that, hey, let's not educate the people. If you need to know something, you can use our services, which again are going to be a commodity, which means if you're poor, you will never have the tools you need to not be poor.
Well,
only the rich people will have the access to that information. So only if you're rich will you be able to use the tools you need to simulate intelligence, because they're not going to let anybody have their own intelligence anymore. So this is like the ultimate class war that like could not be won. If it gets to that
really
point, like you can't escape from that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's a class war thing too. So it's like, so they don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to be able to teach your children. They don't want you to be able to get ahead. They want to have control over everything for forever. And that's the real scary thing. Is it's like, if you look back in any history of anybody's history books, I don't care what background you come from, a lot of the genius inventors came from nothing. It's people that came from needing to solve a problem that solved the problem. So when we, decapitate that from human society, what is going to happen to us?
Absolutely.
Real quick, I'll just run through what's left here. In the next slide here is the kind of one of the solutions that they're coming up with based on this case and a way of moving forward. And it's just kind of like a conditional statement. Is this code used in public discourse? No? Okay. If yes, then it's protected. If no, then is it disseminating useful information for democratic competence? This starts getting to be very like opinionated answers. Like just by reading that, it's almost like, well, first of all, what's that even kind of mean? But these become like opinions, and these aren't like, okay, so now we're just saying the code is no longer free speech. This is what that is kind of leaning on. It has not caveats. It has oh my goodness, not parameters. Somebody knows the word. You could jump in, but if not, don't worry about it. It has Shane, you're usually good. You could finish my sentences when I don't know the word. What is it? Motherfucker. It has
sorry, I was responding to something for work.
No, it's all right. Well, what I think everybody kind of knows what I mean anyway. They're probably just saying yes in front of their computers, like get on with it. But this is all just leaning toward the First Amendment in regard to code is a thing of the past. This case is going to help us do that. And as long as we have a regulatable product, that's all we really care about. We don't care about you having an opportunity to build something useful. We'll tell you what's useful, and we'll let you know if it fits within the guidelines that we are setting. In the next slide is kind of like why this is the way it is. It's this thing called off-chain chaos. The blockchain has no like governance that is across the board. This is the way tokens are governed, or the way a business is set up in this space. We did this. We're building parallel systems. We're trying to create a new business model. And since there's no formal, like legally recognizable corporate structure that we all run with here, prosecutors, I guess regulators too, fall back on targeting the developers, because like, who do we hold accountable when things go wrong? So that's what I meant by off-chain.
Well, and that's the other side of it, right? Too. It's like, who do we hold accountable? And it's like, well, who wants to be held accountable? So it's a fear factor thing too, where it's like, we don't want to have anybody who wants to be held accountable making any of these new designs for things.
Yeah. Well, and even with AI, so now AI is writing code a lot now for people. So now do you hold the person who prompted the AI?
Or do you hold the person accountable who created the AI?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's an endless loop, right? So like there is no end to it. So it's almost just kind of creating more chaos.
And that, the only
if you trace it enough, like everything we're talking about right now, at the end of the day, if you really think about it, traces back to caveman discovering fire. Like, honestly, all the technology we have, it can trace it all the way back there. So like, that's why the whole concept is so stupid. So we're supposed to because that's the thing, like a long chain of good inventions eventually could lead to somebody who makes a bad decision with one of them. But you don't punish all of the good inventions that got us here. We don't demonize them. Like,
just to interrupt here, I'm going to smash you over the head, Chris, with a club.
Which one?
What kind of club?
Chris Miller, obviously.
Oh, I'm good.
And Barry,
I just wonder which kind of club.
That is the first invention. I'm going to smash you.
Do it.
Oh, we got to ban the clubs
not
now.
Literally.
Well, now we got to ban clubs. Great job.
They, the accountability only really matters. The only people that truly will never be accountable are the people who write the laws, right? Like legislators and all those people the accountability never seems to go that far up the ladder, right? But anytime
that's actually a great point.
There's no control, they got to go to the lowest denominator, and that's the guy, who built it? And I guess when you don't cut, it's just like we talked about this the first time I ever came on, and I said they're gangsters. And it always comes back to that. It's like, this is okay. So, but if I cut you a slice of this, if he kicked back money, if this even happened, but like, let's say they were using this illicitly and he knew about it and he was getting a piece of it. If he would have kicked back money from the North Koreans to the DOJ, we never would have heard about this, because that's how this whole thing is.
It do be like that.
Allegedly.
Right, allegedly.
Man, look how many people have been killed in automotive accidents. Like, you don't see them hauling Ford and Chevy into court and being like, "Oh, another 1,000 people died. That's your fault. You built the cars." You know what I mean? It's just, it's
None of
ridiculous.
that. There's nobody's responsible for a data leak. The minuscule amount of responsibility that Google shoulders is like if they sued me for a penny. 68 million for Google is like you can't be serious. So we all know that it's
The drop
not.
in the bucket.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's cost
in
of
the
doing
next-
business for them.
Let me see. So that's the in the next slide. I think that's the. Yeah. So the blockchain. There is no. This whole thing is being built. It's a plane that was pushed off the side of a cliff, and we're building the wings as it's falling through the air. And okay, we got a little bit of flight, but we're still building the plane. There's no universal governance across Ethereum, not even within the same networks, but like Ethereum, Solana, everybody's running on their own business model. There is no everybody is just trying their own different business models to see what works best for the goals that they have.
It's the Wild West.
Yes, and it's been co-opted at this point now. Just being micromanaged at this point by, I guess, the DOJ feels like throwing some weight around with this.
People with bad intentions.
But we've been through this before. This all happened in the 80s, and then in the 90s, and then late in 98. We're always coming up with different. It's like the same playbook just over and over again. And the original cypherpunks fought and kept the privacy that we have now because of the things that they built. What are we going to say about this time period now? While we're writing the future kind of as we speak. So, who knows? Maybe there'll be a line for Shane and Chris, and Nate and Susie. But I'll tell you, there definitely won't be anything for the people who are keeping their mouths shut and not really doing anything about any of this. Just be a byline like, oh, remember when things were good? Or, kids are asking, what is privacy? Or what is freedom of thought even? Because it's not just about even the internet. We live digitally. A lot of our lives are digital, whether we like it or not. And if your thought process is stifled here, and this is how you get your ideas across, this is how you reach people, then that will be stifled. And we won't be able to reach our potential as species, obviously, but even as individuals and all the growth that we go through as people. Because although this might be not augmented, but this is digital, like I have real relationships with all you guys. We've never like shared or occupied the same space, right? And I feel better for knowing you, and I'm happier that I know you. In a world controlled, we don't ever have this, right? And like that goes for a lot of people that have relationships on different levels, or they met people. I have a friend of mine, Amit. He's in India. I never met this guy, but we came together through building, and we built something together. And we toiled. We went through misery. We achieved some level of success together. I talk to him once a week. Like a friend, because he is one. And I'm really afraid for the people who are coming after us, and for the younger people, obviously, that this will not be there for them if we buckle to all of these needs and wants that the rulers seem to have of us. I don't know what the next one is. I'm having a little power does not rest.
And just to jump in here,
Please.
too, it's like, the younger generation these days didn't get to experience the original internet that we did, right? Like the way that we had it. And they don't know how it was back then. And it's also, right now, this is our time, and this is our you know, it is our duty to do something about this. It is our duty to say something about it, to put up a stink, to say, you know what, I'm not going to go along with all of these regulations. And if you're just going to go along with it, then you're going to be a part of the problem. So if you want to, you know, it's not like I'm trying to leave some lasting legacy for my life or my name or anything, but like the least I can do is say, I don't like this. This is bullshit, right? Like this isn't how it used to be, and this isn't how it wasn't designed to be, and this isn't good for the future. So just to have a voice and to speak up, I think is the least we can all do. And I'm super glad and happy to be here with all of you to have my voice on that.
Amen.
Amen. That's a good piece. So there's one more slide here. It's down law enforcement. If you go down, next one, just because I'm covering a lot of this with my tangents. These are proposed solutions, right? And I just created a diagram based on what is being kicked around in think tanks and people much smarter than me. And even though this is the way it was written, and I just wrote exactly what was there. And it's almost like, wow, law enforcement is targeting the wrong layer of the ecosystem. Why not you target the people who do something wrong rather than anybody? Forget even the node operators or miners. Why would you bother them? Why don't you go after the person who is breaking the law? You know, like if their problem was the North Koreans, right? The hackers. Well, I guess you guys got to get better at your job of trying to catch hackers and stop trying to use pipelines these choke points that you used to use. That doesn't work anymore. If you work in the DOJ and it's like your job was very easy, you didn't catch everybody, even though you could have all the time. But if money was being moved, you just went to the bank and said, okay, who picked it up? Where did it go? Shut it off. That's a joke.
Well, let's apply this scale right here to the current day. You know, like, so we're going to charge the coal manufacturing for charging me for internet that I stole somebody else's power or whatever. Like, you're going to charge the actual people that created the energy. Like, it doesn't even make any sense.
It's kind of why I put it up, because it was confusing to me. And I says, you know what? I said, but this is like the best. Hey, look, if this guy could get off and they have to use whatever sort of governance model, or this isn't a governance model, but who is responsible? The person responsible for breaking the law is the person who broke the law. And they're trying to find ways around this for whatever reason. I'm not exactly sure why. Probably because the people who break the biggest laws are state sponsored, and they got to get everybody in the middle, most likely. But yeah,
I mean, what they're doing here, it would be like if they were going after bank robbers, be like, all right, well, we're going to start prosecuting whoever made the car that they used as a getaway vehicle. We're going to use the gun manufacturer for the guns they used. We're going to use the ski mask manufacturer that hid their face. You know, I mean, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, none of those companies did anything wrong. The guy who walked into a bank and pulled a gun out, that's the guy who's a criminal. That's the guy they should go after.
Or even, you know, thinking about, remember when they were talking about music, when they were challenging freedom of speech that way? Ice Cube's Cop Killer made them do it. And it was just like a sensational way of trying to challenge. It's the same type of argument, right? Like, I could tell you whatever, I could make up anything. If you act on that, I don't know, like your brain must have been primed.
They just push off the accountability and the blame onto something else so that they can do whatever they want.
Indeed.
It muddies the waters, per se, you know?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Muddies the water.
And obviously I'm not for any negative behavior, obviously, but I'm definitely not for holding people who build things responsible for people who misuse those particular platforms or solutions.
Oh, absolutely.
We covered whatever what's the remaining slides in the incredible tangent that I went off in, but that
Thank you. That was
No,
a
that
lot
was
of good information in
excellent.
there.
No,
There's
it's
a lot
much
of information
appreciated,
about that.
Christopher. This was great.
no,
A lot of great information there, and gives a perspective on how things are, like where they've been and how
Yeah.
they come about, where they're at
I
now
appreciate
currently.
that. It needs to be said because a lot of people don't know. They either don't know or they don't see it online, necessarily how things really went down.
I appreciate the platform and all of you. Of course, everybody knows that. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has any questions or how.
Let's go ahead and open up the Q&A, and
Yeah.
if there's any questions, just capital Q : and then ask your question there, and then we can just move into wrapping up and closing out. But with all this said, Mr. Cialone, with the Roman Storms case here, with things like Tornado Cash, how do you feel this affects things like your Sub-Rosa project? Are there things that you want to be looking out for too? That because this creates a lot of fear, creating tech around cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think this is like the greatest publicity that something like the Sub-Rosa project could have. GitHub, where we all trust. Everybody has a GitHub, almost everybody. If you don't, you have a GitLab or whatever the other one is. But it has to live somewhere, and most people push it locally, away. They need a platform to push it and collaborate with people. So that's why I'm still tinkering with Sub-Rosa project, trying to get that where it needs to be, so they could go looking for who did push the code, and they just wouldn't know who did it.
And see, that's the thing. There's nothing that you can be like, hey, I created this. Will this be marked as bad? Did I do wrong? There's no forum for that. It's really, you just create something, put it out there, and it could be the next big thing, or it could be this type of thing where they fuck you over and fuck your life up completely because of it, right? And that's always been kind of like my fear moving from like 2015 to like nowish. Is like, I was like, man, this is all some amazing stuff. And like literally not even with the same 10-minute time frame, you see somebody who is like, everybody believed in and stuff, just now they're bagged and tagged, and then they're facing prison time and stuff. Then you see scandals and stuff like FTX, where these are just blatant douchebags. Like, I mean, look at the guy, right? Like, looks like the white Afro man. And then just ripping everybody off for their money, and then just playing stupid. And then look, he got 40 years, and now he's sitting next to P. Diddler over there in New York. So it's one of those things that the tech can be scary, right? And there's a lot of good that can come from all this, but then there's a lot of assholes out there that can fuck it up for the rest of us, especially when we're we believe in these things. I've seen so much passion go into these projects, and then somebody goes and fucks it all up just for everybody by using it the wrong way. And I think that's what's happening with Tornado Cash is, assholes, which in this case, happen to be a state-sponsored North Korea hack and all this, hacking everybody's money and stealing money from, good, honest folks, and then, going to send it to the Tornado Cash, and then, converting it into, whatever the fuck they converted it into, so that they can do their like level of money laundering and stuff. So they did it, not Roman Storm. And a lot of the people that created these other technologies and stuff, they had really great innovations and stuff that went behind it, and other people fucked that up. And then I see people like able to buy yachts because they created something called Crypto Kitties, shit like that. And I've seen 18-year-olds rolling around Ferraris and stuff. So this guy Roman Storm doesn't even have a Ferrari. How bad can he be, right?
It's Citibank. I don't know. You guys probably know, but if you don't, Citibank and all these big banks are constantly named in criminal lawsuits or criminal cases, and they're washing money. They knowingly receive money from some drug dealer, some drug cartel. They were moving money, and all they have to do is pay a fine, and it doesn't matter because it's not their money anyway. But they never drag Jamie Dimon out in handcuffs. They never tell everybody that he was part of terrorism or any of this. No, they were just moving money around, and that's the way it's kind of like, and they paid a fine, and then that's the end of it. And now you have the Samurai Wallet devs and this Roman Storm, and they're making these guys out to be like they're trying to overthrow sovereign governments or whatever the deal is and treating them like public enemy number one. And these guys are just dudes with computers that built something that worked.
Right.
So it's pretty gross.
Absolutely.
And that's something I can definitely relate to as also a dude with a computer that makes things that work.
Right.
You know, these are the type of protections I would want for myself and my teams. You know, especially in regards to privacy, right? And that's the thing is like I'm not accountable for, you know, people using like our VPN service and stuff. Like obviously, you know, we have to manage the networks to the best of our ability. But with zero trust and the things moving into zero trust into the future, and the underlying technologies of zero trust that will be implemented into, well, I think what we probably everything. You can't trust people. You can't trust things. That's why blockchains. That's why these protocols and that's why they exist. And zero trust. It just shows, you know, why do we need zero trust? Well, because assholes like North Korea that go in and hack people's data and steal everything in the first place, right? We have to protect against those things. You know, we have to protect against things like the Salt Typhoon that hacked all of AT&T's networks and then stole like everybody's information, phone calls, phone logs, SMS data, and sat dormant and servers for like a year before they even attacked. So you have to protect against these things. It's just an absolutely cybersecurity 101, no bullshit. If there's fuckery going around, you know, you got to protect yourself from the fuckery, right? And things like Tornado Cash and stuff, it may not have been protecting from the fuckery, but it's considered zero trust technology, right? That's the whole point of consensus-based systems, is that the data can't be tampered with, and that's the whole point. And so, if anything, it should have been regarded as like something great for R&D, like research and development purposes. And look what it can be. Look what can be done with it. And then, you know, the whole global regulation on these things like crypto exchanges. Obviously, I don't think people are smart enough or will be smart enough anytime soon to even grasp regulation around it. When we just had something as enormous of a failure as FTX, right? And then just blatant, like there's actual people that actually deserve to have been black bagged and, you know, thrown in a cell for half the shit they did. Especially, I think there was like one cryptocurrency out there where he just pretended to be dead or something and still dead to this day. And all of a sudden, like something like $70 million disappeared or something like that. And this shit happens all the time.
Yep.
So there's actual bad people out there, and the actual bad ones, like they're pardoning, right? They pardoned that Russian who stole the Mt. Gox Bitcoin and stuff, and for I think for the Lord of War. So traded him for an actual more evil individual. So there's just no precedent to be made. There's no argument that can be made, and we do absolutely need to help free Roman Storm, just, you know, out of principle, right? For you know, there's fuckery going around. We have to protect ourselves from that. And this sets a thing for not just us, but the underground. For all the people that use Tornado Cash out there for illicit activities such as human trafficking or you know, drug smuggling or evil empires and shit, fuck them, right? That's evil. We don't do that. The cyberpunk movement is not about evil. The cyberpunk movement is about creating great things that can help benefit humanity and technology. And these things do help benefit humanity and technology altogether because they are based on zero trust. I don't trust shit. I sure as hell ain't going to trust shit anytime soon. And I don't trust that, you know, like 90% of the systems out there can't just be, you know, hacked at will. You know, they can just like the things that like these paragons that can just hack your cell phone with like a SMS text message. You know, that's all concerning to me. Like somebody actually, you know, probably needs to do something about that. And there's not very many people that have the engineering mindsets, let alone the tenacity or the bravery to step up to the plate and start swinging the bat to see if we can hit a home run for everybody, right? So we're all on the same team, I think, because we all use technology and we're all vulnerable to the actual criminals, such as like the ones in North Korea, Salt Typhoon with China, the pig butchering scams that just rip people off for their money, that give crypto a bad name. I shouldn't feel fear like when looking at this technology. I should see like, and that's the thing is like you mentioned that OpenAI they want to see intelligence as a utility. How about see my middle finger as a fucking utility? Because intelligence is the ability to learn something and then apply it to everything in which you wish to do. And that's something that I wish to do. Is like I would like to learn about Solana. I would like to learn about smart contracts. I don't fully understand them. I don't understand the full encryption levels behind them, like quantum resistant encryptions and shit. That shit's beyond me. You know what I'm saying? But I get it. I get the overall picture, and I hope that other people do as well. And I don't think that there should be any fear based on an interest for this, at least at the observer level, so that you can learn. Right? You don't have to do things, but you can learn things so that you can appreciate the people who do things. And we see that behind shadowranch.xyz. I see that with my team members over at vp.net. Some of the most, I would say, greatest minds out there for being the technically inclined. And especially with Susie, that we see these things and how we can apply them to our real life in the real world, right? That's the thing is you can buy things with Bitcoin. You can cash it out instantly with one button.
Just saying.
And for people like us that live a lifestyle of like, we want to plan our food and we want to do it what we want to do, and we're not doing anything wrong. But at the same time too, we deserve privacy because there's actual bad motherfuckers out there that come to fuck up your vibe. And they do fuck up our vibe. And like my vibe is being fucked up just looking at this Roman Storm issue, because they're trying to fuck up everybody's vibe by making us be in fear of what it is that we believe in. So he created a smart contract system that other people use, right? People have used the fucking dark web for illicit shit for a long time now with Tor. And Tor was created by the US Navy, right? They maintain it. And also, Silk Road, that guy was just pardoned, after he hired a fucking hitman to kill his competition while running a fucking online marketplace for whatever anybody wanted, right? I don't disagree with it. Like, if I feel like these online markets should be like, it's a free and open world, like let them do what they want. But when it comes to like selling like guns and like humans and actually like drugs that actually like ruin fucking families and stuff, like I said, I'm just at the observer level and I kind of just see it all happening. But let's just say he was convicted, and pardoned. And then the guy that robbed Mt. Gox was pardoned and traded for some other warmongering asshole. And then with Roman Storm here, he's being made an example out of because of some sanctions against warmongering assholes such as Russia, in which we have now removed the sanctions on and are doing open business with. Like I just saw something yesterday that we're like paying Iran for oil now, all while we're at war with fucking Iran, right?
It's all such
if this shit could be any more Truman Show level, it would be a fucking cartoon. I'm telling you right now. Like is Scooby Doo gonna pop out of the closet at some point? Like what is actually fucking happening? Like when I look at this and having the mind that I have and the eyes that I have for something, I'm wondering if like Yogi the Bear is gonna fucking swing it on the fucking rope and then fucking come up with some other bullshit story. Hey, boo boo, is that a picnic basket? Yeah, fuck off. It's just becoming cartoon level at this point. It's cartoon villainry and stuff. And then looking at this stuff too, it's like there's actual fucking crime going on. Like Elon Musk just got charged and not charged, but it was found guilty of defrauding investors with Twitter. And is anything ever going to come of that? No. Like that's the thing. You're fucking with rich people's money, but because you're the richest one at almost $1 trillion, we're looking at things like, oh my God, money laundering is happening here. I got bigger issues with the world right now. This is the Roman Storm thing. Definitely go donate to Free Roman Storm. And stay in touch. Keep up to date with Mr. Cialone's x.com account here. Keep in touch with vp.net because we are the first, I wouldn't say line of defense. It's just mostly you can say we're the first line of defense just because all of this bullshit is so fucking offensive. Like if it had a face attached to it, we'd straight clap that shit right in the face. It's so dumb. So that's the thing is all this stuff is
the first line of offense.
Right? The first line of offense. That's how I like to say it. So I know I got some rude humor here, but it's absolutely how I feel about this. I was like, man, it's like these things are all great. Then the FTX scandal happened and stuff. And then we find out that Democrats or something were probably using that to money launder to Ukraine. So I say we move into the future with an open mind because you can't let the bad things outweigh the good things. And the good things are definitely learning and having actual intelligence and applying these technologies to the world. So, Mr. Miller, what do you got for me?
Well, I just got a message that I want everybody to really take to heart. Roman needs our support now more than ever. The Department of Justice isn't just prosecuting Roman. They're trying to establish a precedent that software developers can be held liable for anything users do with their code. If that precedent stands, building privacy-protecting tools becomes legally dangerous. When developers are too afraid to build privacy software, we all lose privacy and online freedom. This isn't about whether you agree with Roman Storm. It isn't about whether you use Tornado Cash. It isn't even about whether you use crypto. If you value privacy, internet freedom, and simply believe developers shouldn't be punished for how others use their software, intended or not, then this is about you. It's about all of us. It's about the right to build tools that empower people to control their own digital and financial lives. If this is about Roman Storm, then in a very real way, we are all Roman Storm. Learn more about his situation, write a letter of support, or donate to his legal defense fund at freeromanstorm.com. The link is in the description.
That was
Wow.
great.
Yep, and that sums it up. That sums up everything, I think, the entirety of the stream, and just like that was really well written. So whoever wrote that, thank you so much.
Yeah, that encapsulated everything. For real. I appreciate the platform and everybody out there listening. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much
If we have more to
for
cover
those presentations, those were amazing.
If we have more to cover on this stuff or more discussion on that, we can speak about this Wednesday, where we stream every Wednesday, and check us out every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And these are the things that are less spoken about because they're less understood, and we're the ones to speak about these things, especially just being ordinary, real-world people that like cool stuff. And I think that's a perfect thing to have some protections around as we enjoy cool stuff. So if anybody else has anything else left to say or any outros or anything like that, now's your time.
I do. I just want to say another thing about freedom of speech and things like that. Shout out to Afro Man. I'm just going to say that right now. Good job, man.
Afro
Man. Yeah.
He's the man.
Shout out to Afro Man
Legend.
for sure, right? And and that's the thing, is he deserved privacy in his own home, and look at the violations that came from that. He's an all-American hero.
He's patriotic. That is patriotism right there. He protected our freedom of speech more than anyone, I think, really understands.
Absolutely. Yeah, I reached out to him. I hope trying to get him to come on, but I don't know. That would be amazing.
Well, if there's nothing else left to say, the only thing left to say is onward.
We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak. We stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak. Digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak. Privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak. What you want to share is only your choice. Hide and speak.
The early internet was the wild, wild west. Strange. Free. We explored, we broke things. And yes, we failed. No rules. And that was beautiful. But times have changed. We hesitate. We censor ourselves because we know they're watching. Surveillance kills curiosity, turning the internet from a frontier of hope into a cage of silence. And your VPN? It's based on trust. For let's be real, nobody has ever lied to me, said nobody ever. Yet true privacy is still within reach. vp.net doesn't rely on trust, it runs on real-time proof. Because privacy is about becoming your truest self when no one's watching. So you can be the best you when they are. Otherwise be an NPC, a digital product, and lose. vp.net, don't trust, verify.